Welcome back to Pixels and Pints. Happy International Women's Day. Joining me, as always, tonight is Tom.
G'day, champs.
I'm Pete, and Dan won't be joining us tonight. He's unfortunately stuck with some other shit to do. And we've actually been a bit slow this month. We've missed 2 or 3 weeks of recording. That's my fault.
We're about a week and a half behind of where we'd like to be.
Yeah, no, I've just been flat out with interviews and study and a whole bunch of really boring shit that we won't talk about on the podcast. What we will be talking on the podcast, though, as always, is all our favorite pop culture around music. Well, actually, we never talk about music. TV shows, movies, comic books. Yeah, we do occasionally talk about music
tonight, actually.
We also do occasionally talk about board games. And while we do all of that, we will be reviewing some tasty craft beer, mostly from Australia, sometimes from New Zealand. And if we're feeling particularly adventurous, further afield.
International.
That's it. That's the intro.
That's us.
It's done.
That's us. We're done.
Only took 11 takes. We got there.
We did. That is.
Do you want to kick off with the beer that you're staring longingly at, Tom?
You know why I'm staring longingly at it? It's not longingly.
It's not in English.
Fuck. Oh, it is in English. Okay, so I picked up the One Drop 4th birthday pack. So they did four beers. I was thinking about for the next recording, I would do all 4 of them. This is their Bohemian Lager at 4.6%.
Okay.
That is by far the lowest ABV beer in the 4-pack. Most of the others are above 10%. So I made the smart decision
on the side of caution.
I need several mirrors set up to read the back of this can because they've written it in reverse. Because
why not?
Well, they've done this whole theme around it. Is like the monk, the sect.
Yep.
444 as opposed to 666 kind of thing. So the entire back of the can actually might work for you, but it's written in reverse.
It doesn't because your camera can't focus.
You probably can't see it, but yeah, I could probably do it actually. These rights affirm the sacred wheel of mix, ferment, consume. No, that's going to be too hard
and too slow.
Yeah,
I can see they're all called 444 as well. So
yes, 444.
This is a Czech Pilsner,
Bohemian Lager. Makes me, whenever I hear the word Bohemian, the first thing I always think of is Ewan McGregor in Moulin Rouge.
What a beautiful, angelic voice that man has.
There was a boy. Pilsner malt, SARS was the hop, and thyme. Yep, that's a lager, so that makes sense.
These rights affirm the sacred wheel of mix, ferment, consume. The sacredness of the humble grain, the natural connection to longevity in the cold, oneness with divine intervention that drives fermentation, all expressed through the goddess-like medium of aqua. These are rights that honor timely traditions of oldie with the evolutionary times of the new. From the many, from the dark, a few runes light an arc. Pilsner malt, SARS, time. Shall the fours be with you?
Normal set. Like that's what it feels like I should end that with. Yeah, it is a beautifully crisp, clear. Like, look at that.
Yeah, wow.
Look at that. You can see me in it. Hello.
If it had been any less clear, then it wouldn't have been true to form in terms of a Czech Pilsner, though.
Yes, yeah, and it's got some really nice, beautiful, like earthy, grassy notes to it. It is a beautifully made beer. It's just the back of that can is fucking annoying. I think the design they've done for all of them is cool. Like, it incorporates the first things I think of when I think about One Drop having been able to go to the brewery. Like, they have a massive Bob Marley artwork, which they feature there. You see Bob's face.
Yeah, that's cool.
The front of the brewery is there on the can. They always have like palm trees and disco balls and good times going. And then they've just made it a little bit culty, which is fun. I'm excited to dive into the other ones. They did it was IPA, which I think they did with their cold fusion system. From memory, there's a heavily fruited sour in the style of One Drop, and then I believe it was a pastry stout. The last two were above 10%, so that's why I declined doing all 4 of them.
Yeah, I think that was a wise move.
Yes. But this is beautiful. It's perfect on, this has been some of the hottest days of the year so far. This is great. It's really refreshing. It's very crisp. As I said, really grassy, really like you kind of feel like you're drinking freshly mowed lawn, which is always kind of nice after a hot day. And yeah, it's a 4.4 out of 5 for me. I was going to do a joke and say it was triple fours, but then that's a 16 out of 5. And
a 4.4 out of 5. So it's going to be a 4.5 out of 5.
Yep.
Because you can't do 0.1s on Untapped, I don't think. Maybe you can.
4.5, didn't I? Did I say 4.5?
You said 4.4.
Oh.
I'll try for that, though. I'll aim for that, Tom.
No, you got to pay for that.
High.
You got to pay for that option. Yes, that was the bad joke I was trying to make with the triple fours.
I didn't know there was a paid option for Untapped.
4.44 out of 5. There you go.
Yeah. That's some serious commitment to tracking your beers, is paying someone a subscription fee for Untapped.
I had it. Yeah, someone gifted it to me once. I had a year of paid subscription on Untapped.
What functionality could possibly be worth spending
if you're
money
a
on
beer
a beer
influencer,
tracker?
Like a social media person who like
beer influencer,
like an influencer who focuses on beer. You know what I mean? There are some seriously followed accounts on Untapped. Like.
Yeah, some seriously broken parts of society too, and most of them start with influencer. Anyway, we won't get into that. No politics. No politics.
Influencing.
No
Let me influence you and tell you to go buy that beer if you can still find it. It's great.
Yeah, cool. I will. I'll keep an eye out for the 4th birthday pack, actually.
It was on the One Drop website. I don't know if they still have any, but yeah.
Cool.
What are you drinking, Peter?
I am drinking Black Hops Brewery Hornet IPA.
Oh, what a beautiful
cracker of a starting
classic beer.
I've not had a Black Hops beer before.
Welcome to the wonderful world of Black Hops.
I've not had the Hornet IPA before at 6%.
Mm-hmm.
Dry, angry, and bitter, Hornet has some serious sting with a balancing aroma of stone and citrus fruits. This modern IPA drinks with a subtle sweetness and a sturdy presence of hop bitterness. I would say it's got more than just a sturdy presence of hop bitterness. I'd say it's a solidly bitter IPA, and it's perfectly balanced against that 6%. Lots of orange pith. I wouldn't so much say I get too much stone fruit out of it, but certainly those really almost sour, pithy notes you get out of orange peel rather than orange juice, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Not too much green around the hop profile, but it's just a classic fucking IPA. So it's perfect hot weather beer, particularly perfectly chilled. I've got a little cooler bag next to me because with only two of us, that's right.
Boy.
That's right. With only two of us, we can't really you can't have one person skive off while the other two keep talking to get a second beer. So it's either.
I usually put my second beer in a cozy and stick it on the desk.
I've got my very, very pretty school lunchbox type thing. It's got the little ice packs in it. Perfectly fits 4 beers and 2 ice packs, one above and one below. Anyway, that's an excellent starting beer. I'm going to give that a 4 out of 5.
Oofed.
Very happy with that.
Good start from us. Well done.
Yeah. Should we kick off with some news? Let's kick off with some fake news.
We interrupt this broadcast with some breaking news from the front.
yes, Peter.
Pete needs to make a retraction from the last episode where
redacted.
Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah. Well, retracted, definitely retracted. So I was incorrect in regurgitating an article that was also incorrect. I went back to the source to see if I just sped read wrong, but the source got it wrong too.
Had they corrected themselves?
I'm not sure. It was on comicbookmovies.com originally.
Oh, man. Look, I
they
know I shouldn't shit on people,
do differentiate between rumors and confirmed quite well.
They're quite often
just out there wrong. Yeah, well, we said we weren't talking politics, and that is almost a political conversation. But look, mea culpa. So I stated that Affleck and Keaton's Batman and Supergirl were out of The Flash. That's just not true. So,
yeah, but I think a few people were reporting that as well. So
there were a lot of people talking about it. But we still have to take responsibility if we're going to have a segment called news. So, Affleck and Keaton, Batman still in Supergirl.
Yes, the trailer definitely showed all of them.
All of them
heavily.
Yeah. Which is funny because I'm sitting there watching the Super Bowl trailer, thinking, "Hang on, what the fuck?" I mean, it's awesome. I was cheering, but at the same time, we just literally just read that they were all out. So I'm super glad that we were wrong, and that they're all in. And it looks like Supergirl's got a fair bit of screen time too, which is awesome. Still a shame that her part gets cut as soon as the movie's over, but it's still awesome that that she wasn't selected to star in it. They built the suit, they filmed it, and then cut her after the fact. I'm really glad that wasn't the outcome.
Yeah, she looks badass too.
She does look badass. Next little nugget of news was Favreau's confirmed that he's already written the entirety of season 4 of Mando. I think we will talk first impressions Mando season 3 a little bit after the news.
Mm-hmm.
We've only seen one episode.
Yes, I don't think two's released today.
Tonight, yeah. So we've got some first impressions. We'll cover that quickly. But yeah, to know that Favreau's already written all of season 3 and all of season 4 of Mandalorian is pretty cool. So this guy clearly has a plan.
Yes. No, I mean, it's actually really interesting if you look at, for those of us who are watching Mando and Bad Batch side by side, especially now Bad Batch is it's closing out the season relatively soon. I think it's got a few more weeks of episodes, both dropping Wednesdays as well. But they've last episode really kicked it into gear in terms of furthering the story. It was a bit, season 2, it was a bit like, where are you guys going? And now it's like, oh shit, like they're right back into
That's
it.
where you're going.
Yeah.
I really need to do some catching up on Bad Batch while I can. Now that I've finished Clone Wars, I can start blitzing through that. I just haven't had a chance. I've been distracted by everything else that's going on TV at the moment. I think the next piece of news you should cover, because I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this. I've certainly got mine.
So we spoke about this when they sold the rights. So Embracer Group bought the rights to the Lord of the Rings franchises from the Tolkien estate a few months ago. It was August-ish, September last year that they announced that. Embracer Group have been buying up a lot of things as well. They bought up a fair hefty chunk of game studios. Some of them are working on some quite big games that we're excited for. So one of their studios was Aspyr, which was doing all the ports of old Star Wars games, and they are actually working on the Coda remake, which they've now passed to another studio. There's Saber Interactive. There was some news around that towards the end of the year. So this Embracer Group has just been buying up shit left, right, and center. It's just a bunch of guys who've obviously got fingers in all pies, super nerdy dudes, and got cash behind them. So they're like, let's bring this stuff home. So they've got the rights to the stuff that Amazon doesn't. So Amazon has the rights to specifically the Second Age of Middle Earth, whereas this is more talking about more Third Age stuff. And so they're talking about they're going to make a bunch of movies based around stories in that, and the initial
a new trilogy.
Yes,
they've said they're making a new trilogy specifically.
But they're not remaking Peter Jackson's trilogy.
No.
That's
it's not a reboot.
Very important caveat to make.
It's an expansion of what they've brought to cinema. But is there that much story left to tell? They've done The Hobbit. They've done the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
To be honest, most of the other stuff that J.R. Tolkien wrote and then his son Christopher finished off for him, a lot of it's dealing with First and Second Age stories. It's a lot of Elvish stuff.
Which is kind of been covered by Rings of Power with the Silmarillion kind of epic poems.
Yeah, and you can't never do a Silmarillion movie. It'd be the entire
420 film.
It would be the MCU. It would be the MCU up until Endgame. That's just the Silmarillion, to really cover it. Look, there are definitely some stories they could probably tell out of it. I just think they need to be really careful about there was that joke image that I sent to the chat, which was Strider origins and Gandalf origins and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But
It was a rip-off.
Gandalf's on Middle Earth for a couple of thousand years. Like, there's some really interesting stories you could tell. Obviously, I also have a soft spot for the Gondorians. You know, that is tattooed on my wrist. There is the White Tree of Gondor. But I'd love to see also like a really cool series about like the Rohirrim and Edoras and like the forming of that, because, you know, the final stand of Helm Hammerhand, who formed Helm's Deep. Like, if you're going to give me a 3-hour movie which is just a Helm's Deep siege, I am just going to splooge. Just oh my god!
Look, there's lots of setting that JR set up. Like, he wrote a lot of backdrop for the trilogy, and you could almost argue, and the Hobbit and the other content that he wrote, you can almost argue that the content is so enthralling because the backdrop was so well thought out, well planned, well developed. The risk here is we're no longer interpreting the content of a book and retelling a story that's been told with a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's all set out for you. We're now in movie studios inventing content based on the backdrop. Yes. And that's dangerous territory, and that's based on what Hollywood's done over the last 10 years.
Super tropey. And that's where they get super tropey, yeah.
And you can already see, and I'm not at all being, like, I'm not criticizing Rings of Power too directly here, but you can already see those issues creeping into Rings of Power from time to time. There were certainly elements of that season that you saw that so common Hollywood.
You saw that in the Hobbit trilogy. Like, the Hobbit trilogy should never have been a trilogy. It should have been a 2-part film at very most.
Yeah.
So look, there is plenty of content for them to go through. There's a lot of letters from Tolkien, especially to his son Christopher, that you could that he writes about the world and everything in there that you could really delve some stuff on. Like, I mean, you could write an entire series around the forming of Khazad-dûm, like the dwarves, and like the entire
just follow some history. Of the Mier around,
yeah,
or however you pronounce it.
It's just, it is dangerous stuff. I did see, actually, this morning, I don't know if you saw it, but Warner Brothers have approached Peter Jackson to say, if we're going to do this again, we want you involved.
Is he directly attached to New Line Cinema? Because I know he was involved, New Line Cinema were involved.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a direct connection between Peter Jackson
I don't know if he has, if he is seniority in New Line or anything, but I know that they reached out to him and said, hey, like, if we're going to do another movie, would you, and and that means you bring in the whole Weta team, like, properly.
Actually, according to, it's old news now, but from January 2007, movie studio company New Line Cinema has announced that movie director Peter Jackson will never be allowed to work on another New Line film again. So clearly there's some bad blood there. That's funny.
Probably told him to get fucked or something. Like,
it was an argument over the budget for the Lord of the Rings. But I'm not going to do live research because that's going to bore our listeners. But so some bad blood there.
Yeah, look, I think there are definitely some stories to tell.
There's more to be told in that world. I'm just very worried about Hollywood's current doesn't have a very good track record in this space lately.
No, and they tend to take,
and when
especially when it's older stories that were told, like the storytelling's changed over the last,
it has
how many, like 90 years or whatever it is. It's almost 100 years since Tolkien put out The Hobbit. Like, storytelling itself has just changed in the way that we embrace stories, the way we engage in stories, or how we take them in and how we follow them. Like,
and this is not at all a political statement either. So I want to be very clear about that. But a lot of the content back then, particularly content that was written between World War I and World War II, and then post World War II, were ironic or satirical looks at society and politics going on in their day, and they were addressing particular issues in politics in the world around them.
I mean, how could you not after a massive world war? Like, yeah.
But those issues don't really need to be addressed today.
No.
And some of those stories, and I'm not talking about specifically about Lord of the Rings, but some of those stories out of necessity focused in on, specific Germanic races, white races. There wasn't a lot of inclusionism. One, because that wasn't the order of the day at the time. Two, because in a lot of cases it didn't play into the storytelling because it wasn't relevant to the satire or the satirical look at politics in the day. But today, one, we don't need to tell those stories because those politics aren't all that relevant to explore, although in a kind of a weird way, there seems to be a resurgence of some of those issues. A lot of discussions of fascism in American politics at the moment, which is really weird. And inclusionism is a far more important element of storytelling today.
Yes.
So it's a case of you're almost you have to be quite sensitive to not retell an old story from 100 years ago because we don't need to tell that story anymore. And if you did tell it, it'd almost be a rebuild from scratch to keep it relevant and to keep it inclusive and, to address some of the thematic issues that we had as a society back then.
That's where absolutely. They should focus. They should focus on the world. And, there are some pretty strong themes that run through some of the cultures that Tolkien built. And if you're a smart writing group, you got to look at it and go, cool.
Are there any left in Hollywood? That's probably a bigger question to deal with.
Yes,
I think Favreau ate them all. Filoni and Favreau.
But that's the best thing to do is you have if you have a strong enough writing group, you can look through and go, cool. Do we need this part of Dwarven culture?
Yeah.
Do we need this part of Elvish culture? Probably not. It's not going to really meld.
They did a decent job of addressing some of those types of inclusionism issues in Rings of Power.
Yeah.
They got some really weird pushback on it, but they certainly did a decent job of. You're not going to please everyone. That's just the reality.
Never.
But they did a decent job of addressing that.
We need a new plague.
Going to move on. So the Marvels was delayed until November. There's a very quick little snippet. It was originally slated for July.
Mm-hmm.
It's now been pushed back. I'm disappointed. I know it's probably not a popular statement, but I'm kind of looking forward to the Marvels. I really liked
Captain Marvel was sick. I liked that movie when it came out.
And Miss Marvel was a really cool TV series for what it was. It was aimed at an audience that isn't me. It was aimed at young girls.
Yeah.
She was also the first Muslim superhero brought to the screen. So I'm definitely not the target demographic, but I enjoyed it because it didn't take itself too seriously.
It was a fresh take.
But it wasn't a Saved by the Bell craptastic 80s coming of age story, and it wasn't too young and immature in today's society either. It was well addressed.
The diverse, like the characters they had a nice range of ages. There were little bits from everything that you could pick on and go, oh yeah, I can relate with that, or I don't agree with your choice there because of an age gap thing. But it's there was still parts of every age group of those characters you could go, oh yeah, I'd make that choice, or you'd go, I wouldn't make that choice. Yeah.
No, but you could put that down to the age gap. I also like that they brought the cartoon elements into live action. It was poked fun at itself.
Yes.
Venom. So, okay, Tom Hardy announced that Venom 3 is in pre-production. My question there is, do we need another Venom?
Yeah, second one was pretty shit, wasn't it?
The first one wasn't great. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great.
The best thing about the first one was that
Tom Hardy was in it.
Well, but also Tom Hardy was in it looking like a bag of shit that had been refrigerated and then microwaved. He at no point
perfectly portrayed that fucking character.
Yeah, but if you think about it, if you were having a symbiotic relationship with an alien parasite, you wouldn't look you wouldn't have your shirtless MCU moment, would you? You'd be like, fuck me, I cannot sleep because this alien keeps chattering in my head. I'm eating shit because
eating things.
Yeah, I thought that was the best part about it was it made it weirdly real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the second film, but look, even the first film, the plot was not great. Hardy's acting was fantastic. The last fight scene was
fucking awful.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the entire second film was just that last fight scene.
Yes. No amount of
and they
good
ruined
acting
such
from Woody
a good
Harrelson
villain.
with Carnage. So I don't think we need a third one. I think you've got a couple of hooks for some cameos in Into the Spider-Verse. There's
unless they go balls to the walls crazy and do the full null King of the Symbiotes like thing and send Tom Hardy to space. Let's just go bananas. Sony's throwing money at it. They're not
going to do that, though. They're not going to do that. It's not safe enough for them. It would be. I don't disagree. Here's a little nugget of weirdness. It's interesting. This is the day that we live in. So the US Copyright Office has ruled that artificially intelligence generated art is not protected by copyright. So there was someone in America who had basically brought to market a comic book where he had written the story, he had written the speech bubbles, but he'd used an AI algorithm to do all of the artwork for the comic.
Oh man!
And the Copyright Office ruled that he can't actually register the copyright on the artwork because it wasn't drawn by a human.
Yeah.
It's just to me, it's the very beginning of a discussion in society about AI rights. Because that conversation, as much as it sounds, the words coming out of my mouth sound far-fetched, that conversation's actually already kicked off with this case. There's already groups of people on the internet talking about, well, the owner of the AI should inherit rights, and then you've got another group saying, well, no, the AI itself should have its own rights. It should be recognized as an entity. We're nowhere near a flashpoint for that conversation, but it is the beginning of it. It's very interesting.
So, would they consider the AI to be kind of like a child?
No, I mean the US Copyright. This is the point. The US Copyright Office has said it's not a person. It's not human. It has no fucking rights. It's a piece of software. Now the US Copyright Office is not the be all end all of American ethics, let alone world ethics, right? But it is the start of the conversation.
The Copyright Office isn't the board of ethics. That's crazy talk.
Yeah, so it's interesting.
Yeah, it is.
And by the way, the IQ of things like ChatGPT, which is now owned by Microsoft, the IQ.
Man, I got a bone to pick with fucking ChatGPT.
The IQ is about 110 to 120. That's smarter than most people. Right, so the IQ of previous generation AI has been 60 or 70. It's not really been that high. Yeah. It's been like a 6 to 8 year old. To be 110 to 120, and this is still a relatively benign. It's not benign. It's the wrong word to use, but it's a relatively early generation AI. Like we're already researching the next gen, and then you have people like Google AI experts saying that they actually wouldn't know if any of their supercomputer AIs weren't already self-aware. And they said that about 12 to 18 months ago, and a whole bunch of media coverage picked up on it, and Google buried the statement very fucking quickly. But a proper bona fide expert in AI from Google said, we wouldn't know if one of these neural networks was sentient unless it told us. We don't understand the code enough anymore to know, because this shit's writing itself.
Bring it on.
What's your ChatGPT complaint?
Oh no, it's a very particular thing, but there was just a little trend of people who were. It's actually kind of similar to what you were saying with the AI not having, like, whether or not they have the rights to the content or something. But there was just a running thing where there was a bunch of beer nerds who were so fucking excited about ChatGPT. They were like, "Oh, imagine if like." A brewer from Mountain Culture got with ChatGPT and they wrote a recipe together, and it's like, or you could just trust the human brewer to write a recipe. And I don't know. It's a little point that pissed me off. It was just like, and then this one particular dude just kept really going on about it, being like, "Oh, I'm gonna put a recipe in, and like it's gonna be the best IPA ever." And it's like, don't know if the computer's gonna brew it though, bro, because they haven't automated all that technology. So
you need to give it the right inputs anyway. Like that's a pointless exercise at this point. It's not like it's going to come up with an idea that a brewer hasn't already come up with.
I know. It was a bunch of tech and beer nerds just coming across each other, being like, if we ChatGPT everything, and yet every time they pick
up their phone or they talk to the A lady in, I can't say out loud in my house because she turns my lights and shit on. That's an AI as well. I mean, we're already surrounded by this shit. It's gotten to a point now where ChatGPT specifically has hit mainstream media because of its capability. But that's all it is. It's just a next step in capability. Anyway, I just think it's interesting that I can ask it the same question 5 times with the same input, and it'll give me a different output because it does actually think. So I can say, here's some information, tell me a story about it, and it will give me 5 different stories if I ask it 5 times. It's not just repeating. It's not looking up a database. It's actually quite interesting in that sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on because I could go down a rabbit hole there, and we don't want to do that. Microsoft appears to be this news is a couple of weeks old now. Microsoft appears to be prepping shareholders and customers, is the way I originally wrote it, for the potential for the Activision Blizzard acquisition to fall through, reassuring fans that Xbox will still exist even if regulators block the purchase. Now, that news is still correct, but but at the moment I suspect it's more because a bunch of idiots in the media world and a bunch of idiot fans have been trying to connect between, if it falls through, does that mean Xbox is going to disappear? And they're like, it's our largest fucking profit-making division, you twats.
That's just bad reporting.
People are dumb.
Yes, that's entirely true.
And bad reporting because it sells papers, the more sensational the news.
Clickbait.
Yeah, precisely.
Reel them in, boys.
It actually does. The latest news that came out a couple of days ago is it looks like the EU is poised to approve the acquisition. And if the EU approves it, it's quite unlikely America's going to stop it.
But then I won't get the Elder Scrolls 6.
You're already not getting it at this point.
Fuck!
Look, if you have a look at what's going on at the moment, anything that they've already released,
replay one of the 18 versions of Skyrim.
Anything that's already been released, they're not going to drop support for. But the only future releases that seem to have some sort of protection is Call of Duty, and it's because Microsoft have been using Call of Duty contracts as a way of paving that fucking pathway through the EU and through America. So Nintendo's already signed a contract with Microsoft to say that if the acquisition goes through, Call of Duty will continue to be released to the Switch. Who the fuck wants to play Call of Duty on a Switch anyway?
I mean, who, as a
may as well play it on an Android
and brain-developed adult, who wants to play Call of Duty?
Well, that too. Do you want to hit the next piece of news? I need you to jump in with some of this news, so it's not just me ranting.
Sure. IO Interactive, developers of the Hitman series, have announced a new game, an online fantasy RPG focusing on teamwork and camaraderie, which has no name. Peter, good news.
It has no name, but the interesting part is IO Interactive, who have been running the Hitman intellectual property for 1,000 years. They haven't done anything recently with the Hitman series, and now their latest game announcement has fucking nothing to do with it. They've got no history. No,
they recently
RPGs.
put out the last of the Hitman episodes. That wasn't too Hitman. The last Hitman game has been getting recurring like DLC like episodes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I
that was Hitman 3, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yes. But they all Absolution or something. I don't know. I've never really played Hitman. But I had seen fresh content from YouTube creators about new episodes coming out. Yeah. I actually think the most interesting one on the similar subject though, of online fantasy stuff, which would interest. And I really want to ask Ed, and I keep forgetting to message him and ask him. But the latest Final Fantasy, which is going to be 16, maybe? Yeah, 15 was the Kingslayer one, and then I think it's 16. It's made a massive shift. So for centuries, possibly false statement there. Ever since
like start of monkey magic for hundreds of years,
the nature of monkey is irrepressible.
Irrepressible.
No. So the Final Fantasy series have always really been turn-based, and they've slowly evolved the turn-based combat. Like Final Fantasy 12 was the last pure turn-based. No, 10. 10 was the last pure turn-based combat style game. 12 started developing this like active turn-based thing where you still had this moment of like you had like this line came out of your character. I was like, that's essentially like the turn-based element of it. then they've slowly moved away to that, to the point where the next one, which I think is 16, is going to be like a pure action style game, like not so much a button masher, but
that's what they did with Fallout. I mean, Fallout was turn-based, and then now it's all real time.
Yeah, but that's the thing. But it's a massive shift for them, because for years they've been turn-based, or like a variation on turn-based. And I really want to get Ed's opinion on that, because obviously he is a massive Final Fantasy fan. But as I've played 7, 10, 12, 13, 15. Did I play 14? I can't remember. No, 14 was the online one. But yeah, like playing those, like, and it is like, it was like almost like a refreshing, like, kind of thing to go back to that turn-based style of gameplay. Like, so yeah.
Oh, that's why I love tactics.
It's a massive
games.
development for the studio, though, to go like, that's like a pretty big shift. But yeah, from all accounts, it's going to be more like, almost like not Ragnarok-y kind of gameplay, but similar.
God of War Ragnarok, not AC.
Yeah,
I don't know why I keep thinking AC Ragnarok. I know it was DLC, but
yeah.
Anyway.
But it's similar to that. So yeah,
cool.
It's a super interesting move for a studio to develop their biggest selling series and move them to that.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
What's
day before?
The
this
day
is you, mate.
before. Yeah,
I'll do the last two.
Okay, cool. I originally saw the day before. It was supposed to be a gameplay trailer, and look, I'm still angry that The Division wasn't what I had hoped it would be.
Yes,
a co-op, like a massive open world co-op with a good storyline to bring everything together. So when I saw the day before, like they're playing with their mates, that had the similar kind of tactical elements, but set in a zombie world that looked quite a lot like. What was the bike one?
Days Gone.
Thank you. I was going to look behind because I got the statue behind me. Days Gone. It kind of looked like that, but co-op in a larger world.
Yeah.
But the more I look into it, the more it seems like it's all horseshit. And I don't know if it's a scam or a studio trying to punch above their weight and they've been called out on it. I don't know what's going on, but
it does seem a bit dodgy, doesn't it?
Continues to be plagued by issues. So it came out a couple of weeks back, or probably 3 or 4 now, that the trailer's almost a cut and paste from a Call of Duty, the most recent Call of Duty. So shot for shot, even down to the point of the lighting of bars across the character's face, the stances between characters.
You don't think you're going to copy a small studio. You're going to go for one of the biggest.
If you're going to plagiarize, let's go for something that everyone's going to fucking see. And then you compare the poster from the day before to The Last of Us. And to be honest, the very first time I saw that poster, I was attracted to the idea of the game because I thought, holy shit, are they doing some sort of multiplayer co-op Last of Us? So my brain recognized that before I did.
Oh, shit. Yeah, that is... Yeah. Yep.
And the latest controversy is it turns out that the 10 minutes or whatever it was of in-game footage that I had seen as a trailer.
I watched that one, yeah.
Yep. They've now admitted, after a lot of people screaming at them, that it wasn't actually captured in-game. There was no human interacting with the game engine. It was 100%
that's how
computer
you shoot
scripted.
Yourself in the foot. Yeah.
Yep. It was 100% scripted in the game engine. So it is in-game footage in the sense that it's inside the Unreal Engine, but there's no person playing, there's no one interacting, the voiceovers are all faked, it's all bullshit. And the latest trouble they're in, ironically, is the dumbest little piece of news, is they didn't manage to grab the trademark on the name the day before a very small Korean mobile app developer did, so now they're in trouble for the name of the fucking game. It just seems like that game's just never going to see the light of day at the rate that it's going. There's a lot of problems there.
But it's one of those things you think about, like, should it? Or is it one of those things where it's like, you know what? Maybe it's best to just go back to sleep.
Yeah. It's going to be another Duke Nukem Forever that took forever and ended up being an absolute fucking dumpster fire of a game. Well, it was 15 years it took for that game to come out. It was terrible.
And God, was it behind the times. This is exciting news. I'm excited for this.
Fuck yeah.
Jon Bernthal has confirmed he's back in Daredevil Born Again as the Punisher. I think one of the great scenes of the Punisher, Daredevil being the Jon Bernthal and why is his name just escaped my lips?
Charlie Cox.
One of their greatest interactions was the courtroom scene, where you watch as Frank realizes that as he says the name, as Charlie Cox, as Daredevil says Frank, when he's defending him, and he goes, "Oh, I recognize that." And it's like, yeah, that's because that's what the Punisher is. Yeah. And he figures out who Matt Murdock is. I think their interactions are superb. I think they're a great little acting duo. So I'm very excited to see them interact.
Not to mention Kingpin. Like, if they were going to rescue any of the Netflix properties and bring it into official MCU, that was the fucking perfect one to pick.
Yeah, well, they've already brought Kingpin in.
Yes, they have, but Kingpin was brought the character was brought to life in the first season of Daredevil. Yes. Frank Castle was season 2 of Daredevil. So if they were going to rescue any of the properties, they can let Iron Fist just get fisted. Jessica Jones, I really loved that character for the first season.
I never got into Jessica Jones.
I just really enjoyed that detective noir style. And then David Tennant being the bad guy was just mind-blowingly.
I think that was the main thing for me that threw me off. I couldn't
get behind a bad David Tennant. Not
a bad David Tennant, but like that creepy David Tennant. Like,
fuck, he did it well.
Yeah, and it's a shame because he by all accounts he does it so well, and I just didn't.
Fair enough.
Coming after him being the Doctor and then seeing him in other stuff, and it's just like, oh, I just can't do it. Yeah, but that's my loss. That's what that is. It's
But I'm glad they rescued that and brought it into MCU.
Oh, John Berthel was a beautiful Punisher. He was great. He was always fantastic. I thought like the moments where he was especially grappling like with Frank's PTSD and stuff, and just like the outbursts and stuff. There were controlled chaos kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful moment. And the last of this one's a bit sad for me actually. Forspoken, the Square Enix game, getting slammed. I
seems to be coming back a little bit in reviews now. It got initially destroyed.
I quite enjoyed the demo I played. In fact, to the point where I stopped playing it.
Yeah, you were saying.
I stopped playing because I didn't want to ruin the story. I didn't want to like get too deep into it. Unfortunately, have not been churning through games like I used to in recent months. But it still sits there. I've got the game. Like I picked it up from EB and I've got it sitting at home. It's once I finally finish Hogwarts and finish the 2 Far Cry's I'm on, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to dive right into it. But it's I'm a bit worried now that it's probably going to be,
tainted a little bit.
Not tainted, but I'm worried I'm going to keep pushing it back for other games now. Probably because like a little bit of tainting it like that. And that. It was so promising, and it looked so beautiful. But even with that said, playing it in that demo, it was still quite an enthralling world.
The reviews I've read say that the combat system is interesting for about 15 minutes, and then it just becomes 100% repetitive. Boss and mini boss fights are exactly the same over and over again. There is no game mechanic unique to any of it. And the voiceover is like the voice acting is poor,
stale,
immature, overacted, poorly paced. So it's like you're talking 3. I think 3 is the average score out of 5, which is pretty low for a AAA title. And then the news that Square Enix has absorbed the studio Luminous, which is, it doesn't really mean that much. Square Enix always owned
I thought the studio
Luminous.
Originally, they picked some dudes and said, out of Square Enix and go make your own little.
No, I think Luminous has done a few games. It's not. Okay. I'm pretty sure it's not the only game they've produced. But the concern there is if Square Enix absorbs their subsidiary games, like the development studio, and then redistributes the employees, who's going to look after Forspoken in terms of patches, in terms of like DLC content down the path? Well, it doesn't. It's not a death knell, but it's not a good sign.
Well, yeah. I guess that comes down to how many people do you need to be doing those kind of patches, and that is not a question I can answer because.
Well, they only had 150 staff to start with. They did Final Fantasy 15. And then Forspoken.
Right.
They've been a game studio since 2018. Yeah, so...
Well, if they got given 14 you said?
15.
15. Oh, yeah, that was the drive around Stand By Me version.
Wouldn't know.
That's a joke
know.
for Ed. You're welcome, Ed. I'm sure actually he'll actually have a bit of a chuckle with that one.
Yeah, so they released Final Fantasy 15 in 2016.
Solid game. Yeah.
And then Forspoken. So they haven't done anything else.
Okay.
Anyway, that's the news over.
That is the news over. Well done, news. You survive another week.
Have you got your second beer handy?
I am just cracking it. You seem to have cracked yours, so you start.
Mm-hmm. Cool. My second beer. Mm-hmm. I'm on a bit of a journey tonight. So the second one is Ekim
Not about
Brewing.
The destination, it's about the journey.
That's it. Ekim or Eking?
Ekim
Brewing.
Do you know why they're called Ekim?
Viking IPA. I do not. I know they're based in Ku-ring-gai, Mount Ku-ring-gai, which is not too far away from me at the moment.
No. They're called Ekim because one of the so the original owner or brewer name was Mike, which is Ekim backwards. Just a fun.
Makes sense.
Fun little wordplay. You love it.
So it's a Viking IPA. So it's American IPA. It's nice and clear. Actually,
is it the Aftermath? No. That was
Viking IPA.
Yeah.
It's basically Mosaic IPA.
Ooh.
Lots and lots and lots of Mosaic. 6.2%. It's greener, like it's noticeably greener than the black hops I just had.
How fresh is it? Check it for me.
I don't know. Here we are. Brewed on the 2nd of February. So it's a month old. Yeah, super fucking fresh. Which is why it will be so green. Oh, here we go. And it was double dry hopped with Mosaic, which is why I'm getting so much green out of it. Not much dankness, but it is very piney, very hop forward. Solid. I'd say, I wouldn't say solid. It's not strongly bitter, but a good bitterness to balance against all of that
nice rounded
fresh,
bitterness.
Grassy, rounded bitterness. That's right. This is great. It's a nice departure from it's a good contrast to the Hornet IPA I just had.
It would be actually quite nice to have them because they'd be similar but different.
Yeah, precisely. 6.2%. Nice, good, solid hit. Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed that. And another brewery that I know you guys had said, both you and Dan said that you had Ekim's beers before, but I have not. So I picked it up primarily because I've not heard of them.
Beautiful.
Yes. Tom, what are you drinking?
I'm actually also drinking a new brewery that I am just trying to find a little bit about. So I'm drinking the Frexy Brewing Golden IPA. These are a new brewery that from Dandenong in Victoria. I'm just trying to find out how long they've been around because I have only just come across them. The Golden IPA is pouring quite a solid deep amber.
Deeper, yeah.
I feel like it's kind of like a mix. It's like an extra hopped golden ale, which is an older style, which I love to see. One of the first few craft beers that I had was an old brewery that I don't know if they exist anymore. But one of their flagship beers was a golden ale, which was kind of like, for those who are newer into craft, it was the XBA before the XBA existed.
Okay.
Yeah. But these guys, I'll just read their little blurb because it's kind of it's new for me, and I love finding new breweries. So these guys are a duo. So there's Charlotte, who is a chef from France, and Ed, an architect and carpenter from Mexico, and they met in London, bonded over time, spent visiting breweries and enjoying beers while traveling through Europe and Southeast Asia, and now they've settled in Melbourne, where they became home brewers, and 3 years on from their first brew, they formed Frexy Brewing. Frexy comes from the alliance between France and Mexico. Nice little wordplay. It doesn't say how long they have been brewing, unfortunately. But I would say they're relatively new. It is a solid, like, malty IPA. This golden IPA. It's got a strong malty background. It's got a nice like hop rounded like flavor. Not overpowering in any way. It's not like a smack hops to your face, which is what you kind of said you were talking about that you're getting. This was packaged back in October, so it's getting kind of towards the end of it.
Yeah,
it's had some time to mellow and kind of chill. But I probably doubt that when it first came out, it was going to be a massive hop hit to the face anyway. It's a perfect like good sessionable IPA, something you can sit on. It was 5.6 as well. Sorry, I didn't tell you that first. Yeah. Sorry about that.
It's a balance between a golden ale and an IPA.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that is the perfectness. There's a nice bitterness through it, bit of tropical notes, a little bit of stone fruit, but then the malt is just there just to hold everything together as like a nice glue. For someone who's recently jumped from home brewing to commercial brewing, like this is really good. And one of my co-managers had some of their sours and said they were amazing. They did like a cherry and lavender sour that she was just like, it was insanely good. I'm very impressed for a first shootout. This is silly 4.25 out of 5. Like, yeah, congratulations, well done.
Nice.
Welcome to the wonderful world of the craft beer industry.
And mine was a 4 out of 5. I didn't actually give it a rating when I should have. So.
Oh, Pete, they got an IBU for you. 50.
Ooh. 50 IBUs.
Love an IBU rating. You don't see that very often.
There's lots of IBUs, bro. Neither of mine did.
Yeah, they do a lavender and cherry sour, the golden IPA, a hazy IPA, a smoky sour, a refreshing porter.
Smoky sour.
Yeah. XPA Southern sour.
That's funny because the next word.
Apparently the refreshing porter is like super, super coffee-ish too.
Yeah, cool.
The Southern sour is watermelon habaneros, so Tom will never be trying that because he doesn't want to die on
Squirt
the podcast.
City.
No, we'll go into anaphylactic shock.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay.
That's a fun thing for anyone playing at home. If you want to assassinate me, just feed me chilies. I will die.
Good to know and put out there on the airwaves.
Please.
Kill me. I've got some mini reviews to do.
Stop.
The voices. I'm going to try and rip through some mini reviews or first impressions, really. So, Picard season 3's out. Once again, Patrick
the ad
Stewart
looked hectic. I keep seeing the
it
ad
is
for
so
it.
fucking good, mate. Honestly,
it's just bringing everyone back together, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's now brought actors and characters from Next Gen, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager together. So last season, and I think the first season, you already had 7 of 9 from Voyager in. No, last season 2, they brought 7 of 9 in, along with Will Riker and Picard, obviously from Next Gen. But in this season, they've now brought in, I can't remember who the character was, but it registered that they're from DS9. And they're also talking about some of the themes from Deep Space Nine, which are quite different. So it really is the glue to bring it all together.
Cool.
And I've got to say, the special effects are fucking AAA title worthy.
Yeah.
And Picard, I mean, Patrick Stewart just turns the English word so perfectly.
How? Because he's got
goosebumps and tears in equal measure. I don't think we'll see much more from him, to be honest. After this, I really don't.
Yeah, he's done.
He's got to be in his. It's got to be in his late 80s.
He's 82 years old.
Okay, so early 80s.
Yeah, but still,
he's looking frail. And throwing him around in a fucking Star Trek, like. He's doing some somersaults and some ship explosions, throwing him across, and so. Anyway, moving on, Mando season 3. Obviously, we've gotten the first episode. We've seen that. The second one's out tonight. Do you have some thoughts, some first impressions? I've got some. I've already shared with you guys.
Yeah. I read an article the other day which was condemning the Naboo one hot rod starfighter.
Oh, really? Okay, that's a weird place to go.
No. This is what it's probably my favorite part of season 3 so far is the N1. I fucking love it. I've always loved the N1 Starfighter. When I first saw it in episode 1, I was like, that is such a cool looking ship. And having it now as a juiced up hot rod, like muscle car version, I'm just like, that's good. And this dude, and he's probably a decent writer. I haven't read any of it. I don't know if I've read any of his other articles, but he was just having a big whinge. He's like, oh, it's not good for bounty hunting. It's like, no, because that's not what Mando's doing anymore. Mando's on a quest. It is the perfect questing vehicle. It's fast. It can get you where you need to go. It's got defensive capabilities. This isn't the bounty hunter Mando. And whether or not that's a good thing, that's a probably entirely separate conversation. I definitely agree with what you were saying about how it's a bit sucky that we've gone from the bounty hunting Mando to this new kind of hero Mando.
No, I didn't say that. I don't know who said that, but it wasn't me.
Oh, well, okay.
What I said was I found the episode was terrible.
Yeah. I'll get to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's like
I don't mind.
Maybe it was this guy's article. Then maybe I'm just. I
don't mind the transformation of the Mandalorian because he couldn't have started a bounty hunter and ended a bounty hunter with no journey in between. Like it's
no, 100%.
Particularly now we've got Boba Fett. He's the bounty hunter, and even he's a retired bounty hunter, really.
He's a gang. He's a gang lord now.
Yeah,
gangster lord. Yeah. Maybe it was this article then. Yeah, and it was talking a bit. I was like, yeah, cool. I understand that. It was really cool initially for Mando to just be bounty hunting, but it's like that's when you start getting. That's when you'd end up with a show that was. I used to love Supernatural because it was the monster of the week, it was the bounty of the week kind of thing. But they had only lasted for 2 seasons before they were like, oh no, we've got to keep killing off the brother and bringing him back every other week. CW, well done. Yeah, I think it's so cool. I fucking love it. That pirate starship scene, the way that, and I know that they already have a ghost ship in Star Wars lore in Rebels, the ship's called the Ghost, but I was like, damn it, that's like the perfect name for that N1 Starfighter because the way it disappeared behind a meteor and then just peered back out. It's like, we'll call it the Phantom then or something. I don't know. We'll have to do something. But yeah, I thought that was super cool. But yes, I agree. The episode just felt chopped. It was...
I don't know if it's bad editing or bad...
I think it was definitely probably down to bad editing. But it feels like a chunk was taken out in certain points.
So my complaints were... And to be clear, I'm not talking about the episode being slow in terms of it's the start of a new season. It's an establishing episode. So I've got no problems with that. I've got no problems with pacing. There was a good amount of action given that it was an establishing episode.
Yes.
So that's not what I'm complaining about. My complaints were... The acting felt wooden. It felt overacted in places. Like it was just there'd be a quiet like dialogue between two characters, but one would just be overacting. And then the conversation between Jin and Bo, they would deliver a line, and then the other actor would just stare at them, and then deliver their line, and then it'd go back to Jin, who would stare at her, and there'd be like a 2-3 second delay. And then he'd deliver his line back, and it just felt.
I definitely felt that
directing, bad editing, bad acting.
Just in terms of that, I definitely felt that Kreef Karga's like comedic
wrong
bit
kind of flamboyant.
Well, not even that, but just his comedic bit where he was like he kept cutting in to explain what the little
with the little
droid dudes were doing, whatever they're called, Aberdeens. Yeah, I think they're called Aberdeens.
Micro droids.
Which also makes me think of Micro Machines for some reason. Just tiny little cars.
Wow, that's a throwback.
They're the bots from inside Soundwave. That's what those aliens are. That's a dumb image in my head. Why is my vision in my mind so accurate? It's just I felt that the moments where he was like kept pouring into that little hole, peeping into that little hole, being like, they're saying this. I was like, can you just shut up for a second? Like, Mando can clearly understand what they're saying. It was funny maybe the first interaction.
I giggled a couple of times at the start, but it did drag out. But
yeah,
to me, that was just targeting the show at a younger audience. There was that stop motion? Did I detect proper stop motion? That was the highlight for me. There was a sequence, and
what those dudes, the little Aberdeen?
No. There was a sequence in the middle of the episode, and it's funny because I wrote down stop motion, but I didn't write down what the sequence was. I'm almost sure that one of the animation sequences in that episode was old school proper stop motion, and if it was, it's fucking cool that they did that.
I'm going to have to go back and know. Yeah, very curious to know which thing you mean.
The one thing I didn't like about the pirate ship sequence, because that fight was fucking cool through the asteroid field. They found a way to make it feel different from all the other asteroid field sequences we've already seen in Star Wars IP, which is cool. I was
disappointed he didn't drop a seismic charge.
That sound is just so damn good. I did not like the pirate captain because it looked like a direct rip-off from Pirates of the Caribbean. No, it was a Pirates of the Caribbean with the fucking octopus from...
No, it was Oscar the Grouch with cellophane and a beard.
It looked terrible.
It was, yeah. And there's been a fair...
Was it Davy Jones? What was his fucking name?
Davy Jones was Bill Nye played Davy Jones in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, but
the squid tentacles.
Yeah, that is who I'm thinking of then. It was a direct rip to me.
Yeah, there's been a few comments online about how shitty the captain was, and it's just like, yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're not wrong. It did look average.
It's just weird because Mando season 2 was so fucking phenomenally good. It just felt like a weird start to season 3.
There was a super cool moment which may have gone over your head. I'm not sure. Because you haven't watched Rebels, have you?
No.
But we did see the hyperspace whales, which was a really cool throwback to Rebels.
Yeah, no, I didn't get the reference, but I got the beauty.
You got the reference without getting the reference kind of thing. You got the moment. Yeah. That was really cool. That's a big moment for the kid in Rebels. I can't remember his name off the top of my head now. But yeah, that
kind of made me think they were force sensitive somehow.
They're meant to be. Yeah, that was a good that was a classic Dave Filoni moment. And it's just kind of nice because Dan and I have talked about how much we loved reading the Mandalorian, like the Clone Troop, the Clone Commando books, and it just feels like now between Mando and Bad Batch, it's finally Clone Wars kind of fucked up Mandalore. The Karen Travis version of Mandalore wasn't this bombed out, crystallized, uninhabitable planet. It was rolling hills of green. It was like the Windows desktop view.
The Windows Vista. Yeah.
And it kind of feels like we're finally giving Mandalore its due, which is good because as much as we love Coruscant, as much as we overdo Tatooine, Mandalore was such an important big part of Star Wars Old Republic history with the Mandalorian Jedi War, and all this kind of stuff. So it's finally nice to see it be giving its accurate kind of proper spotlight, especially when it's come from a silent character that you saw in the background of a scene in Return of the Jedi, and it's just this entire beautiful culture has grown out of it. So that's kind of cool. Which I'm going to roll into. I'm going to do a mini review of the Bad Batch so far.
Yeah, cool. Do that. Before you do that, because I'll do Last of Us last before we go to break. So jump.
It'll be the Last of Us review.
What I was going to say is the one thing we can thank episode 1 of season 3 Mando for is some fucking phenomenally funny memes. Some of the memes that have come out of that episode were fantastic.
The upgrade of Grief Karga's cloak.
Yeah, there was that. There was the Florida baptism. Why would you baptize your fucking little baby Mandos in alligator infested fucking waters? There's been quite a few very funny memes that have come out. I think they're plastered all over Reddit at the moment.
I mean, that was also a really cool scene as well. I did agree with something I saw, which was it just seemed like the armorer being the gold helmed Mandalorian armorer. She flipped her view since we last saw her.
In what sense?
So she in Boba Fett was always like, you need to go to Mandalore to bathe in the waters.
Yeah, and now she was saying there's no point going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a bit weird. It was kind of like writers weren't talking to each other kind of thing.
And I've got to be honest, this whole thou shalt not show your face is getting a little long in the tooth now.
Oh, but that is yes. But
it is not actually part of core Mandalorian beliefs. It's only the zealots
Death Watch. Yeah.
It is, the Death Watch. Well, is it Death Watch? Because Bo was attached to Death Watch in Clone Wars, wasn't she?
Yeah, but she broke apart from. So they're meant to be a sect within the sect of Death Watch. It's kind of that kind of.
So they're the zealot fanatics, basically.
Yes,
they're religious fanatics.
Because if you actually look at the Clone Wars series, Pre Vizsla, who was the Death Watch leader of Concordia, always took his fucking helmet off. Who's meant to be the big minigun Mandalorian? It's meant to be like his ancestor.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel like I need like the chart with the red like rope to be like this Mandalorian connected to this Mandalorian. They did this.
But that'd just make you crazy. Look like more obviously crazy. I did like the Cara Dune firing reference. Like she's recruited by
she's in Black Ops now. We can't talk about her. Yeah.
We had to take a Twitter account away and we sent her off to fight in the war.
It's really a shame because like in my lead up to season 3 being released, the night before I was at home and I watched the 2 episodes of season 2. So I watched the Boba Fett episode. Let's call it that. It's the one on the mountain when Grogu, the tragedy, I think is the actual name of the episode, when Grogu gets taken by the Empire. And then I watched the following one, which is the Bill Burr episode, which is definitely one of the best episodes of season 2. The way Bill Burr goes through that without doing anything except just his entire facial movements moving, and he's just like, I'm going to fucking kill you, you absolute
C-bomb.
Yes. So I watched those 2 because I'd watched the rescue episode so many times, and I've seen every YouTube variation of Luke's entrance down the hall, to every musical entrance as well, because that's where my YouTube goes. So it's just like watching those, and it's like, I know we complained about those 2 episodes of Boba Fett being so Mando-centric, but I kind of feel like they did that in season 2 and we let it slide. Like they were pretty Boba Fett heavy.
Yeah, they were.
But they weren't dedicated. I know there's a difference because, and I can hear Dan here going, It's like, no, Dan, I understand that, in Boba Fett, they didn't show Boba Fett for one of those episodes and focused entirely on Mando and Grogu.
Yeah.
But it's like still like the tragedy episode, while it was like there was the plot of Grogu being taken, most of that episode was focused around Boba being a badass, getting his armor back, and then being even more of a badass, and then shooting down those 2 ships with his rocket and walking away from the explosion like a hero. Like that was the thing. And the second episode was very much like it's like Boba was around, but it was still felt a bit Boba-centric kind of thing. Yeah.
And then, in my opinion, and I know you and Dan don't share this, they shat the bed with when he got his own fucking season.
No, Dan definitely shares that view. Yeah. I enjoyed it, but I liked the idea of a retired Boba Fett. I think Dan
I enjoyed the concept.
Yeah, Dan wanted prime Boba Fett. And I might be putting words in his mouth now, and I'll accept that, and he can yell at me in the chat when he finally listens to this. But it was like, yeah, I get we all wanted prime Boba Fett, but
I was cool with him turning into the gang lord. I was cool with it. Yeah. I just thought the execution was piss poor. I just really. Anyway, you wanted to talk about Bad Batch.
Bad Batch season 2. Season 2.
Sorry.
The best thing about this is so this is post Fall of the Republic. So this is right into the formation of the Empire. The first season was kind of like, oh, where do we stand? This season, they really started it as, we're mercs. We're now mercenaries for hire. We work for Sid, who's a Trandoshan, but we're essentially her kind of go-to guys. But that's because she knows who we are. She could rat us out. We don't really trust her, but we trust her. So we're going to keep working with her. And season 1, and this is a spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen it. Nope, I'm not going to say it because you haven't seen it. Yeah, no.
I'm cool. I'm cool.
No. It's very key. It's very key.
Okay.
I can talk about it without spoiling it. So, the thing that's really been a bit slow in this season was it's kind of gone back to that like adventure of the week kind of thing. So, like one of the episodes early on is almost a direct rip-off of the pod racing scene from episode 1. Okay. Which I loved. I absolutely loved. And I was messaging Dan being like, this is the greatest episode of Bad Batch ever. And he's like, calm down. Like, have a glass of water, Tom. Breathe.
Big call. Yeah.
But it's now taken 9, 10 episodes, wherever they're up to. I'd have to look at what they're up to right now, the latest one. It's taken a fair chunk of the season for them to actually get a bit of traction and actually make it feel a bit more like they're halfway through the season, yeah.
Okay.
But just getting a bit of traction and actually feel a bit meaty kind of thing. But you know what's going to happen now is they're just going to hit that absolutely running. So there's like just a massive, So they're hitting up the clone conspiracy. Is the general kind of field of vision, which you've seen in other Star Wars media before. And it's almost really kind of cool because
that's the end of Clone Wars. The last couple of seasons,
it's coming straight back to that, which is obviously a Filoni. Like Filoni loves that, and he wants to explore it as much as he can. But it's like that one in End of Clone Wars kind of felt more connected to the formation of the Empire.
Yeah,
this feels like
they were chasing after the Jedi that got killed by
Sifo Dyas.
Yeah, Sifo Dyas is who I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
And they spent a long time in Clone Wars middle seasons talking about that.
Yes, they did, yeah. This is actually what they're talking about now really feels like it's talking about how it's kind of trying to justify the most recent trilogy and like the Palpatine element to it.
Oh, why bother? Why waste your breath?
Well, that was actually a really cool part of the expanded universe in the books. The expanded
universe runs circles around the latest trilogy, though.
The latest trilogy. That's the thing. They should have just adapted the expanded universe.
Yes, they should have. And funnily enough, that is what Filoni is slowly doing.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's him finally trying to make up the mistakes of. It's not him making up his own mistakes. It's him cleaning up the messes of J.J. Abrams, kind of thing. But it's like,
well, I don't know how much you can lay at the feet of Abrams versus Lucas, but yeah,
I can blame who I want to blame.
When even Hamill's saying it's a fucking piece of shit, then maybe it's time that we just pause, take a breath, and reassess.
Yeah, I mean, there's no denying they should have just adapted the expanded universe. But for Lucasfilm itself to come in and say that's not real anymore, that was their first big mistake. Because they also they slapped the face of every Star Wars fan who kept that franchise alive. But that was back
when Lucas was running things, and Lucas wanted to say, no, I'm the authority on my universe, and I've allowed all of this expanded universe to occur while I'm getting royalties from it, but now I'm ready to flop my cock out and write 3 new films that you must watch. I declare it all non-canon. That's all it was.
It was the Disney introduction.
No, that happened. I'm certain that was before Disney.
No, it was the Disney takeover of the expanded universe. That was one of the things that fell with the Disney takeover. We're getting down distracted now.
We are. Sorry, my apologies. I may well be wrong. It happens every day.
But the Thrawn trilogy in the books is the Thrawn trilogy. Yeah, because there's 2 plots in the Thrawn trilogy of books. Great books if you haven't read them.
I have.
There's Han and Leia and various other characters are doing rebellion-esque and like New Republic stuff against Thrawn, who's the remnant and the Empire and stuff.
Sorry, I was right. April 2014, Lucasfilm declared content to be non-canon, organized under the Legends banner in preparation for Star Wars sequel trilogy. It was all about the trilogy. Disney. When did Disney change Star Wars canon? Shortly after the purchase of Lucasfilm in 2012. So I suppose you could probably argue we're both right.
We are both right. There we go. Win for everyone.
Also, something's on fire somewhere close by. So if I have to run, I'll let you know.
Just put it out.
No, not in my room.
Yes, but the Thrawn trilogy when the two sides. Dan would be loving this right now. He'd be so nerdy. Where is he? No, and then the other side of it was Luke dealing with this clone conspiracy and like cloning of the Emperor, which they butchered when they brought him back in Rise of Skywalker. It was based on Expanded Universe. It was obviously written so much better.
It had a lot more runway in the books.
It did
to make it make sense and not feel ham-fisted.
Yes. But this is what it feels like it's doing because Filoni brought back Thrawn in Rebels. So it feels like he was obviously a massive fan of those books and he's slowly being like, you were wrong. Let me put it back in place.
Yeah, weave it back.
Everything's okay. It's all standing up. But yeah, so it's exciting now because we're finally getting like I was enjoying the episode to episode. Like Dan and I watch them. We both watch them on Saturday mornings now. And we kind of message being like, have you watched it yet? Like we talk about it and it's like we both have the same kind of like that was sick. That was a bit whatever. It's finally feels like the season's getting its direction, which is a bit of a shame. It's taken half of the second season for that to happen. But yeah, I'm excited for you as well to get stuck into it. And it's it's just going to play a larger part, especially it's going to enrich your Mando experience as well. If you haven't, people who are watching
look, I do need to go back. I need to watch Bad Batch. I also need to watch Rebels. I have every intention of watching Rebels at some point. I know they're very different and non-sequential, but I need to cover both.
Rebels is kind of the same thing where it's like probably skip the first season because it's still too kiddie. They did the same problem. It's like they go too kiddie with the cartoon and then realize, oh shit, our main fan base for this series again is 35 plus males.
Yeah, people that grew up with it.
Yeah, we should probably make it more adult.
God, there's the smell of really strong bushfire, and I live next to bushland. Anyway, till the room starts getting weirdly smoky, I'll be fine, I'm sure. I wanted to cover, and I need to tread really carefully here. So I'm going to do my best to cover The Last of Us TV series. We have one more episode to go for the rest of the season, but unless they take a really strange turn that's completely different to the other 8 episodes we've already had, everything I'm going to say will still hold true after the last episode. I'm also waiting until the final episode to get the opinion of Ben and Ed, both friends of the show that have been on it, who are 2 people that are both watching it and have never played the video game, because I want to see if their opinions differ. It's my understanding.
I knew Ben hadn't, but I didn't know if Ed had.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure. No, Ed confirmed actually on chat. So I'm really interested to see what their opinions are, having not played the game. But I'm going to do my best to keep this spoiler free. You're the only person that I may fuck it up for, because if you tell me something's a spoiler, I'm going to edit it out for everyone else. So I'm going to do my best.
Well, I won't be able to watch it. I'm waiting for it to all finish to watch it in one hit kind of thing.
Yeah, I hear you. And look, I can't really spoil the story because the story's already written. You've either played the video game or you haven't, but either way, I'm not going to talk about the core storyline content, which is the TV series is true to the video game in terms of its core themes.
Right.
It is still a coming-of-age story because that's what the original game has elements of coming of age. Ellie is growing up and she's discovering who she is. It just happens to be set in a post-apocalyptic zombie fucking universe.
Yeah, and at the same time, it's also Joel discovering who he can be. Like it's a realization story as well. Yeah,
it's Joel's. It's a father-daughter story in that sense, and Joel's redemption from the dark place that he went, and the beauty and the darkness in those 2 core themes 100% exist and are perfectly told in the TV show. And I am so happy that they've done the original core storyline justice.
So the way I understand it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, and this is just something I've seen through Sony's marketing and like.
I have criticisms too, so I'm just going to put that out there while you ask a question.
And it's one of the things I actually saw it was an interview with Neil Druckmann, who's the creator, and he was saying that this was the perfect chance for them to not just tell the game story again, which is it's a dual story. It's
Ellie,
have. It's Ellie and Joel. Well, tell it, but at the same time, they're able now to do a bit more like 3-dimensional view on it, where they get to spend more time with the characters that you don't necessarily get to spend more time with.
Correct. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
and do you feel like that is a good thing or a bad thing? That is my question for you, Peter, actually.
So my second point partially answers the question. My second point, the second thing that I noted down, was that there are exquisite extensions to the original content.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the type of perfect harmony between the original video game IP and the TV show IP. There is no... you get discontinuities in storytelling sometimes between a video game and a movie, or a video game and a TV show, or even a TV show based on a movie. You get these discontinuities where you can understand why the vehicle of storytelling is different, and it necessitated them telling the story differently in the new media.
Yeah.
But their expansion of a character just feels it's not in harmony with the character that already established. It's not a continuation of their personality, or they do something that you know that the video game character would never fucking do in a million years. And so because Neil Druckmann's been involved in both writing the video game story and the TV show story, when he decides to spend a whole episode focusing on something new, that something new 100% perfectly fits with the video game. You could totally see how that content would have fit into the video game world.
Yeah.
You can also very easily understand why they've had to change the way that they've told the story. They don't have, in the video game, and I mentioned this to Sui actually, who has played the video games, funnily enough. In the video game, quite a lot of the background story, in the background, like the fabric of the world that the story is being told in, is delivered to you in the form of notes that you pick up throughout the game.
Yeah.
If you read them. Sui doesn't fucking read them, so he never got that backdrop. Right? In a TV show, you can't have
a moment where the character picks up the screen and it zooms
and
in,
starts reading it out, right?
Yeah.
So instead, you have to actually bring those characters to life that happen in the notes. So you need to tell those stories in a different way. And so I can understand the mechanics behind why they've had to extend the content as well, and they've done it just so perfectly. And here's where my criticism comes in.
Okay.
The pacing. The pacing is the complete opposite end of the spectrum from The Walking Dead, which you can argue is a similar-ish backdrop universe. We're still talking zombies, they're different kinds of zombies, sure, but it's a zombie post-apocalyptic world. And Walking Dead took 9 seasons to tell a pretty fucking basic story, and it did it slow as shit.
Yes.
There are whole seasons. It's like...
They don't leave it fun.
It's to me, it's the description of the Lord of the Rings trilogy out of Clerks 2. And I'm not agreeing with that description from Clerks 2, but it's just like The Walking Dead, we spent the whole season walking between the first campsite and the second campsite. That was season 2. Yay. And then we spent the whole of season 2 in the farm. And then we spent all of season 3 in the prison. And it's slow as fuck. The Last of Us have told a 40-plus hour video game story in the space of 8 or 9 hour-ish episodes. And to me, they could have done it in 2 seasons. It feels...
It's too fast.
Rushed.
Yeah, okay.
It's not quite rushed. You don't go, oh shit, I feel like I didn't understand that plot point. It's not that kind of rushed. It's that knowing the video game lore, I know that they could have spent more time exploring this.
How long are the episodes?
They vary, but about an hour. So they're not stingy. They're not 35-minute episodes like Mando Season 3, Episode 1.
But do you feel like it would be better if they'd done... Because how many episodes is it? It's 10?
So 9 episodes for Season 1. And 50 minutes average. Let me just say, you never get to the end of the episode and feel like, fuck, they should have spent an extra 10 minutes in this episode. Or an extra... This should have been a 90-minute and when it was only a 50-minute. You never have that feeling.
I was actually going to go the opposite. Would you have preferred it to then been maybe, say, 15 episodes that were a bit shorter?
I would have preferred them, instead of trying to, well, not try, they have successfully told the entire first video game story in 1 season of 9 eps. I wish they had told it over 2 seasons.
Would you still have had 50-minute episodes, or would you have had short.
I would have kept it. No. Like I said, the episode length feels perfect for the amount of story they're biting off. But I know they've skipped a whole bunch of really cool shit that they could have explored more.
Hmm.
Or they could have spent 2 episodes on telling this particular subplot instead of 1. So the episodes don't feel rushed. The story arc feels a bit rushed to me. The second complaint I've got is one of the things Neil Druckmann said at the start is you don't see as much violence and you don't see as many of the infected as you do in the video games. No. Instead, you see the result. And when you do see violence on screen, it's shockingly aggressive violence as a way of kind of balancing against the lack of it.
Right. More impactful.
But, yes. And I can tell that they succeeded. My complaint, though, is there just ain't enough infected in a show about zombies. There just aren't enough of them. It's not an existential threat pushing the plot.
Okay.
The whole core storyline for The Last of Us is we have the chosen one. She is the cure. We need to get her to the MacGuffin so everybody can solve this crisis of humanity. And yet, you kind of... Are you messaging me to say that was a spoiler?
No.
Okay.
I was actually going to look up how many infected fights there were in the game.
Well, the whole thing is one continuous fight. Unless you're either fighting humans or you're running from infected.
Yeah, but like
there's hundreds of clickers.
Yeah. It was a curiosity thing. It was like to see if someone had done a thing where they how many infected in the game, how many infected are in the series. Yeah.
Look, there's some memes. I can tell you that. There's some memes.
I mean, there's a meme for everything.
Oh, that's true. But I laughed at it because it hit home so well.
Yeah.
Look, The Walking Dead, you can level similar accusations at The Walking Dead in the sense that the zombies were an existential threat for the first 2 or 3 seasons, and then after that, it all focused on the human element. It was the bad human settlement. And then occasionally
they threw in a horde that you had to...
Yeah, exactly. Now, it's different in The Last of Us. It's... When the infected are on screen, they are fucking scary. They did such a great job of conveying that immediacy and the real risk of these things. And
which was the real threat that we, like, I know that Dan and I said, like, that we were worried about, like, how can you, like, that urgency and that stress moment of, like, seeing
and
one
when
on screen.
They're on screen, they did a fantastic job of conveying it. But the whole episodes, I would say more episodes contain 0 infected than contained any infected.
Yeah, okay. That's unfortunate.
And to me, that's problematic. It's not a deal breaker, like I said at the start.
Yeah.
My critical statements coexist with my positive statements that they did a phenomenal job of retelling the story, and they really have. It's been a very sensitive way of dealing with it. Even down to the stuff that we talked about before The Last of Us TV even started. We said one of our concerns was, are they going to do a decent job of telling the story of Adam, the pedophile guy who tries to rape Ellie? David, sorry. What did I say? Adam. David. And I can confirm they did a perfect job of telling his story. They did not tell it verbatim, but what's amazing about it, I will say, is they have hit the exact same story beats as they did in the game, but they haven't told the story verbatim.
Yeah, okay.
Which I found really impressive.
Did you look? I've seen the screenshots of the latest episode, which had David in it. Did you notice his little counterpart, who he was?
Troy Baker.
Yeah. He was the voice of Joel.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that's so cool they brought him back in a different role. Yeah.
Well, they've brought quite a few characters back. So the chick
cool.
We talked about that last episode, I think, and I floundered for her name, and I felt really bad about it. She played the leader of the Fireflies in the game.
Okay, I remember that now.
The African American actress. Yep. So she reprised her role. Troy Baker comes back playing a different character, and the character Ashley, who plays Ellie in the video game, is also in the last episode of the TV series as a different character.
Is she? Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it's and she comes in another really cool way, because it's cool how they integrated Troy Baker. As like the 2IC of David. And Jeffrey Pierce, I think there was at least one other actor from the video game or voice actor from the video game that made it into the series. So I thought that was really respectful of Neil to bring them in.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing.
Yeah. But overall,
it's not just doing the Nolan North on the beach in Uncharted moment.
No, that's more a slap in the face.
While the theme plays in the background underneath what he's saying. Yeah,
it was terrible.
I mean, if you're going to ham fist anything, that's the perfect way to do it.
Bella Ramsey, anyone who says that she's not a good Ellie, I vigorously disagree. She is not she doesn't look anything like Ellie, but her sassiness, and then that is one other criticism before I wrap this up.
That's one of the best things about the first game, was that as you're going through this entire dystopian, post-apocalyptic world, Ellie's there
this sassy fucking preteen turning into a teen.
Yeah, and making really bad dad jokes from the joke book. Like, yeah, that's one of the best moments.
So I can confirm that her attitude, so the actress, Bella Ramsey, their attitude, and she said her pronouns were okay. She uses all pronouns. She has gender dysphoria, but she uses all pronouns. She perfectly conveys the sassy character or the sassy personality from Ellie in the video game. One other criticism I would level at the TV series is, in order for them to tell other parts of the story more effectively and to extend those perfect extensions I was talking about earlier, almost take away too many video game sassiness moments from Ellie's character. So while she still conveys that personality, and she does it very effectively, she's afforded a lot less opportunities to demonstrate that personality quirk, because they've changed other parts of the storytelling, and those other parts gave her those opportunities in the video game.
And that feels like it's probably what you're leading to in terms of the rushing of the story kind of thing. Like, yeah, okay. Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody knows now, because of the media coverage, that they spent a whole episode telling the story of Bill.
Left Behind. Oh, Bill. Yeah, Bill.
Yeah. So in the video game, it's established that it's
the level post Boston. Like, it's a decent sized level, but they don't focus on Bill. Yeah.
They don't focus on Bill, but Ellie's interactions with Bill were fucking hilarious in the video game. And it really allowed her to demonstrate how fucking sassy she was. She back-chatted the shit out of him, and he was the first character where Bill in the video game would just turn around and turn to Joel and say, like, are you going to shut this little twerp up or what? Like, there were a couple of perfect moments there. In the TV series, she never interacts with him. Instead, they dedicated a whole episode to telling the story of Bill and his partner. What was his partner's name? Is it David? Because it was established in the video game that he was in a gay relationship, and the husband had left for some reason. They'd had a fight, and the husband had left. And I won't spoil what happens in the video game, but in the TV series, they instead spend a whole episode focused on that relationship, and it is beautiful, like, exposition of their story, and it was so well handled. But it denied the opportunity for Ellie to ever interact with Bill. Now, that you might consider that a slight spoiler. I don't know. I might have to cut that.
No.
But that's the kind of, like, the extensions were
a bit disappointing, isn't it?
Yeah. The extensions in the storyline were exquisite. They were seamless. They were perfectly handled by Neil Druckmann. They never took away from character establishment from the video games, but it did deny some interactions that I missed. And I felt it happened 2 or 3 times with 2 or 3 very specific characters that Ellie interacts with in the game that she doesn't interact with in the same manner in the TV series. And I think that was a miss. And if they had paced it slower, if they'd done 2 seasons, they would have had.
Do you really think 2 seasons, or do you think like a season and a half kind of scenario? Because this is what it feels like. I like, and this is maybe me inferring what you're saying, but
given how perfectly they've managed to expand the content.
Yeah, okay.
I hear what you're saying. You probably couldn't have taken.
I'm just worried that what you're saying about how they've avoided the Walking Dead slowness. If they did 2 seasons in game 1, it would be. That's when you actually start to go like your review would be more like
it's too fucking slow.
Slowness.
Yeah. You're right. I think, except that they've demonstrated that when they need to expand the established IP, they do it in a really good, sensitive, interesting way.
Yeah.
Look. That whole Bill, David, I'm pretty sure it is David that he's in a relationship with.
Yeah.
That whole relationship episode is like entirely new content. And it was perfectly executed and it was interesting and it was worth the episode to invest in that storyline.
Yeah.
So if you did do it out over two seasons, they would have had to come up with maybe 2 or 3 extra episodes worth of content, and Neil's already demonstrated that he can do that effectively in an interesting way. Man, I don't think it would have felt too slow.
If he could have done an entire episode of, I mean, it'd be exhausting to watch, but if he could have done an entire episode of just like that, there's one particular clicker fight that stands out for me in the first game, and it's when you are in the abandoned skyscraper and there's like one desk you can hide behind.
It's actually your first clicker experience.
It's your real, but when you're doing it on grounded mode, it's just like
I remember.
Fuck.
And I'm almost certain it is the first clicker you encounter in the game because you'd already encountered plenty of infected, but I'm pretty sure that was the first.
That was clicker. Because and you have such limited resources because you've gone through like a bit of a chase scene before, and it was like encouraging you to like fire off some bullets. You're like, oh, I should save these. But like, if you manage to do an entire episode of that, like I know, like we talked about how like hard that would be to like get across, but it's like if you can keep that tension for a 40-minute episode, it'd be like people would have to have therapy sessions afterwards to be like, Jesus Christ, I just can't.
But they missed whole sections of the game too, right? So there was no warehouse, there was no bookshop in the TV show. That was a whole sequence in the video game.
Yeah,
there was the bookshop 2-level bookshop warehouse that you fight all the humans in.
Yeah.
That's not in the TV series.
That's after the ambush, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's after Pittsburgh. So yes. Pittsburgh?
Fucking Pittsburgh Steelers, you dogs.
There was a lot of infected fights that were missed. There was the crowded highway sequence where you have to walk through all the parked cars. All of that's not in the TV series.
Oh, okay.
So there's plenty of content that they could have re-included.
You know what? That probably is because that shot, if you think about the crowded highway parked cars scene, that was used so many. It's been used in every single zombie-ish.
It has, but the other thing, and you've got, hang on, there's also another key element that just occurred to me. There is no part of the show really that addresses. It's mentioned that Ellie can't swim. Well, no, there's no shiv doors in the TV series. It's mentioned that Ellie can't swim, but it's never a problem in the TV series. It was a massive problem in the video game. There was 3 or 4 major game mechanics that you had to use to work around that problem in the game. None of it made its way into the movie, and all of the sequences that included that are completely missing. So there's no sewer section in the TV series. There is a sewer section, but there's not the sewers from the video game. So it's big, open, underwater areas. They could easily have done 2 seasons, is what I'm saying. Because all of that was excised. And whilst that content may not have been interesting in and of itself, you think about all of the interactions between Joel and Ellie whilst those video game sequences were happening. That's when you're establishing who Ellie is.
Yeah, and the kind of like father protective figure that Joel is. Yeah.
Some of the jokes were at the end of that car sequence with all the parked cars on the freeway that was blocked just before the ambush from the humans. She was telling jokes out of a book.
Yeah.
All of that's gone. All of those interactions with Joel are gone. Now, the relationship with Joel and Ellie is well described in the TV show, and they do that very well.
Yeah, okay.
But it's not explored nearly as much.
Yeah, right.
So all in all, the one thing I will say overall, they have proven that it is possible to tell a video game story in a TV series, do it justice, and do it effectively.
Yes.
It is easily the best adaptation I've ever seen.
Well, yeah, I saw a thing from Corey Barrog today as well that it was like, they've really set the bar high. We really need to make sure that God of War Amazon works.
I saw the same. I saw the headline. I didn't read any article around it, but yeah, they have proven it is possible to do this properly.
I think this would be an interesting question for you. Then, do you think this is proof then that it's the video game curse for, they talk about the video game curse for movies, but is it just it's the medium of movies? They should all just have been TV shows.
I think you and I and Dan have spoken about that not too long ago, actually.
I firmly believe that. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't effectively tell a video game story in a 90-minute movie or a 2-hour movie or a 2.5-hour movie. You just can't. And if you try and cram it into a 3-hour movie, by the time you finish telling the story, the audience is fucking exhausted. And you just don't have the impact or the pacing that you get. You don't play a video game in one 40-hour sitting. And so in order for video game pacing to work, it has to be a shit ton of 2 or 3 hour stories. And it has to, the plot needs to drive along in a way that you can put it down and pick it back up again tomorrow. Yeah. And you still feel like you've achieved something from each play section, and you still feel like you want to come back to it for the next play section. Movies aren't paced like that.
No.
Movies have a 3-act standard approach.
Yeah.
So, whereas TV series, you've got 9 beginning, middles, and ends. It's a lot. It's a lot closer to video game pacing.
Yeah. I'm fully on board with the idea that they should just abandon movies. I know maybe movies make the money or whatever if they're good, but it's like it's just if you think about TV shows and the way they're built and as you said, crafted, it's definitely leaning towards that that video game pacing.
The conversion.
Yeah. Oh, I did watch The Northman finally.
Northman. Remind me.
What's Viking? Angry Viking. Nicole Kidman.
Yes. Yep. Okay. And thoughts?
And this is purely because Dan isn't here to rebuttal me, and I'm going to say it to fuck with him. And I know you're going to listen to it, Dan. I'm going to get right in close to the mic for this one. I thought it was a brilliant film. I thought the actors were all quite exceptional. I can see what you mean about Nicole Kidman's work in that it was a bit jarring and weird. But I really thought it was a very bold and brave choice that the director took to base the final fight scene in the lava pit. And just to take inspiration from one of the greatest films of the 20th century, which is Revenge of the Sith. So that was great.
Yeah.
You're not here to rebuttal me, Dan. This is beautiful.
There's no high ground in that sequence, though.
No. I mean, that's why they both lost. Spoiler. Yeah.
Anyway,
and,
I think
on that note, I think we should probably take a break because I can hear Dan having an aneurysm from here. Yeah, he's not even recording.
Plus, I'm getting thirsty. Let's be honest. We'll be back in just a mo.
Hey,
and we're back.
Yes,
and more exciting than ever.
Yes, we are. Perfectly poured, as usual, Thomas. Well done.
Jolly good show.
It's like I pour beers for a living or something like that. Something stupid.
All something.
Something stupid.
Do you want to talk about your beer? Or do you want to just talk about
I
how
have
great
gone
the
across
pour
the
was?
ditch this beer. I've journeyed to the beautiful land of New Zealand, which I long for deeply in my soul of souls to go back to. I am having an 8-wired. We've had 8-wired on the brewery
numerous
before.
times.
Fucking hell. You dumb idiot. This is called the King Snake West Coast IPA. It's 6.3%. Comes in a beautiful 440ml can. Look at that.
6.3, did you say? Sorry?
6.3. It's got rattlesnake.
It does.
Yes. We recently got a new shipment of 8-wired beers at the shop.
I didn't see them when I was shopping them.
That's because probably the lazy. Oh, sorry, haven't put it up on the website yet.
Thanks, mate. Now I got to bleep it out.
Come on, it was 1 minute in. We could probably just start again.
No. By the way, you need to sack your fucking courier company, man. They picked up my order today and told me it wouldn't be at my house until Friday, and it's like, pretty sure I can throw a rock. Anyway.
Yes. Don't get me started on couriers, please. We'll have an hour.
I wasn't going to name and shame them.
Oh, yeah, we will. Ozpost have been fantastic. Couriers, please pick up your fucking game if any of you are listening. Anyway, This is the 8 Wide King Snake West Coast IPA. It is full of delicious Centennial, Simcoe, and Columbus hops, which makes for a very bright and, as they say, bold ale. Look at that. That is a beautiful West Coast color.
It is. Lovely color.
It's filled the room already as I've cracked it and poured it. There's a lovely hoppy, piney, dank aroma filling the room, and knowing 8 Wide and their ability to create a damn good West Coast. Jasper, stop it. Sorry, he's whining at the door.
Oh, if it makes you feel any better, I've got a cat in a cupboard at the moment. She walks into the dead-end wardrobe that has nothing in it. She spends 20 minutes making noise, and then she walks back out. I don't know why she does it. She does it 5 times a day.
I get that. Yeah, that's fine. That is a classic West Coast. It is like, even for 6.3%, it is like very quaffable. What a great weight word. Great word.
It is a great word.
Is what brings us together today. Yeah, it's
Wov.
Super light malt. Well, not super light malt. It's a light malt base, which I think is just helping to bring those hop characters forward. Yeah, well done. 8 Wide as usual. And I'll give that a solid. That's a solid 4 out of 5. That is delicious.
Excellent.
Cracking. Peter, what are you consuming?
Das ist gut. I am drinking a Brick Lane brewing beer this evening called the Revolver, which is a dark hoppy ale. It's basically a dark IPA, black IPA. Let me see what it's actually classified as. It's a dark ale, 5.8%. It is very dark. It almost looks like a porter on camera, but it's actually a little bit
ruby red.
No, it's definitely not red. It is definitely brown. Brown, yes. And it's basically a black IPA. It's really hoppy. It's nice and floral on the nose. It's hop forward, but it's got a real solid dark malt backbone.
Yeah. Finishing up with a black IPA, so I can't wait for that.
Nicely bitter chocolate coffee, but not the difference. What separates this from, say, a porter or a stout is it's a lot thinner it's not as strong in terms of those darker notes. You don't get that roastiness punch you in the mouth. It's there, but it's not loud. It's not screaming at you. But it is an excellent balance. 5.8%. I think that's a solid ABV for it. They could have bumped it maybe a few percentage.
Yeah,
a few percentage. They could have done it at 6.5, and I think it would have been fine. But that's an excellent fucking beer. Good solid bitterness rounding it off too. Just looking at it, I've lost the ability to speak. It's that good. Looking at it on Untapped, imagine the hop aroma as kind of a Jungian anima, not an enema, to an otherwise peculiar old man style of beer. Dark and comforting while reminiscent of summertime fruit and warm weather. Does. No, that's excellent. I'm going to give that a 4.5.
Cool.
Yeah. These are the guys that do stouts well. I mean, these are the trilogy of fear fellas.
I just looked up I know exactly what you're talking about. I just looked up the Brick Lane Revolver, and they have a vanilla porter version.
Ooh.
Yeah. But then they have this, which it's different branding, different style can to the Revolver, which is dark hoppy ale, which makes me think of like a hopped. Makes kind of like, just looking at it makes me think of the motorcycle.
It's an IPA with
memories. It's not quite. It's a Cascadian dark ale. It's just a dark ale, like a hoppy dark ale. Yeah.
Yes.
Not quite full black IPA where it's like in your face hops.
No, it's actually quite well balanced between those kind of medium to dark roasty characters. They're not black roast. Yeah. They're not porter land. They're not, stout land. So they're medium. No biscuitiness.
Sounds like a beautiful place.
Yeah, I could live there for a while, especially in winter. Through. Chestnuts crackling on the fire. Anyway, I'll be right there with you, mate. Maybe we can open that up. That's a retirement plan. 4.5 out of 5 for me, mate. That's fucking great, that beer.
Well done,
Yes.
Laneth.
Bricketh Leneth. Shall we move into some trailer trashes?
Oh yeah, I need to make sure I have actually seen any of these.
Yeah, okay.
Nope.
John Wick 4. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on any of these really, but they're there. John Wick 4. We've moved past the perennium. We're into arsehole territory, and to be frank, that's kind of where I feel this movie has gone to. I have no interest in it now. Keanu being in it is almost enough to convince me to watch it. I probably will when it's free to air, but I'm not excited about it.
Sorry. You're going to stick to that this time, or are you going to Black Adam
it? No, definitely not. Definitely not. That was a weak moment of boredom and loneliness, Tom.
I will. I definitely still enjoy the John Wick series. I will probably treat myself to a Monday night special, cheap at the Dendy.
Even what Keanu said about it has turned me off it for the same reasons I already had major reservations.
What was that?
It's just mind-blowing action. Like, we've dialed it up even more, is what he said. Even more action, even more explosiveness. I'm like, that's everything that was wrong with number 3. You took this cool, interesting, rich world, and we talked about after the first movie on this podcast. That's cool. They built this whole subculture around the hotel and the Assassin's Guild, essentially. And then they explored that subculture in the second movie, and they just went off the fucking deep end and turned it into like a pop out Die Hard 4-esque movie in Perennium.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. They did. They definitely went far too heavy into the action side of things, and
now none of the further.
Characters we developed in the first two really seem to hold any weight anymore. Essentially, yeah, or they were just not developed enough, and they were too mysterious because they needed to be mysterious so they could be brought back for the future installments and all that kind of stuff. And it's just like, yeah, but it's one of those things when you have a series that like John Wick, where you get to even halfway through 2, it's just like, how can you up this? Like, you've started pretty strong in 1. It was a lot more ground
and it
level.
Was excellent, and the action was excellent in the first 2 movies as well.
Yeah,
didn't feel like over the top.
Yes, but this one's like it's that Hollywood unfortunateness of you've always got to go bigger, better, stronger, kind of,
And it really feels like that's what they've done.
Well, yeah, they were talking. I watched a short little clip on the. There's a scene in the 4th one which they talk about pre the movie coming out and in depth, like a little behind the scenes thing about how they're doing a scene of car driving plus gun shooting around the Arc de Triomphe, and it's how Keanu was able to learn new skills to do it. And it's like, yeah, that's super impressive that Keanu Reeves was able to figure out how to drive
Keanu continues to be one of the world's best actors.
Yeah.
End quote.
But it's like yeah, that's cool, but it's like, how's it going to make sense in the film except from being yes, blowy, boomy, gunny, kari. Like, yeah, it's just.
What was the reference to? So I have and this is a genuine question because I don't remember. John Wick 3 was called Parabellum.
Yes.
Now, was that a reference to? Did they ever talk about the quote in the movie of?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did from memory.
Si vis pacem parabellum.
Yeah, it was something to do with the condemnation quote from the Assassins. It's Latin for suck these nuts.
So parabellum is prepare for war in Latin, and the rest, the full quote is si vis pacem parabellum, meaning if you want peace, you should prepare for war.
Well, yeah, because the whole plot of it is he's trying to get out of the Assassin's Guild, and the way he has to do that is to fight them all.
Is to kill them all, annihilate them all. Because the other thing is, parabellum is when it's one word, it's actually a reference to a 9mm round from a pistol.
Right.
The 9mm parabellum is a type of 9mm round. 9mm Luger is another type. They're all essentially the same fucking round. They're all interchangeable. But I wasn't sure if it was a reference to the pistol round or if it was a reference to.
No. It was definitely a plot. kill the rest of the angry assassins, and then you can go back to your not original dog, but you can still go live with your dog in the hills of wherever you lived.
Yeah. Cool. So that's John Wick 4. Next, we'll probably breeze through the next couple of trailers unless you have anything specific to talk about. Tetris.
Oh, I thought it looked really fun.
Yeah, and I'm a massive fan of Taron Egerton, so I'm going to watch it just for him. But the true story of buying the Tetris concept from Russia during
Nintendo
the Cold
USA
War,
buying it, yeah,
during the Cold War, and
I think it's just going to like
Russians thinking that they're spies buying intelligence, and
yeah, that sounds fun.
It does.
And look, Russians just make bad villains. I'm sorry. It's just a recurring theme.
Yeah. The next one, kind of like it's very different, but it kind of feels similar to Tetris for some reason. Was Air, which is the true story of
the Michael Jordan thing, right?
Of Nike focusing basically the whole fucking company on Jordan Airs.
Yeah.
Again, based on true story, directed by Ben Affleck, which I thought was interesting. Starring Viola Davis, Matt Damon, and Ben Affleck. So you know it's going to be
Ben Affleck's directing a film and he's using Matt Damon. That is
unheard. Yeah, I know it's never been done before.
Wow,
very new.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean that looked fun and interesting, and if it's true,
that's definitely one of
how based on a true story it is. But
that is that's a Friday night at home. What are we going to watch tonight?
Yeah,
put that on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wouldn't go to the cinema to watch it, but it's like I'll crack a beer and we'll sit here and we'll watch it.
And I know
we'll love to see some 80s Boston accents. It'll make us giggle and all that kind of stuff.
This is a bit of a deep cut reference, but I can't think of Nike without. And this movie elicited like strong memories of the Nike advertising campaign in the movie What Women Want, and it always. Really
not a film I've committed to memory.
No, sure, but it's a film I've seen plenty of times, and it's a really great film in my opinion. It was a fun film.
It's Mel Gibson one, right?
It was before Mel Gibson went off the deep end. I don't know if is he back in vogue these days. I can never tell. He seems to go on a mad anti-Semitic rampage, and then he's forgiven, and then he does it again, and then he's forgiven, and so I don't know where in the cycle he is, but. Yeah, it was
probably the Mad Max part.
But I thought it was a good film, and in it, they basically create a advertising campaign for Nikes, and it was focused on, it was an advertising campaign written by a woman, and it was her connecting with why she jogs, why she runs, and it was all about her personal relationship with the road. And no matter how bad the day was, no matter what's going on in her life, kids screaming, blah, 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 blah.
You get out and
as soon as she's jogging. And I don't know why, but it just stands out in memory as just this really beautiful connection between somebody and their sport or their zen, and how they managed to capture and convey it for a marketing campaign. Now, obviously, it wasn't even based on a real marketing campaign for Nike. It just stands out as a memory. I hope there's plenty of those moments in the movie Air.
Oh, I definitely will.
That's the end of my story.
It'll be one of those ones where it's
masterful advertising.
Yeah, and it's just showing it'll show the dirty side of it, but with good intentions kind of thing, like all those kind of sport marketing films tend to do. Where it's
as long as it doesn't go too boiler room, we should be all right.
Yeah, but it's the guys we want to make money off this, but we also want to help this kid out, and blah, 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 blah. And then look, he's the greatest basketballer of all time kind of thing.
Yeah. The next one we probably don't need to talk too much about, just the Super Bowl.
Fast running man.
The Flash Super Bowl trailer.
All it did really for us.
I want to see it now. It looks good.
Well, yeah, it made us kind of want to watch it, and it also just confirmed that we had spouted out falsehoods.
Yes. Yes. And I wrote starring Sasha Calais. Callie? I don't know how to pronounce her surname, unfortunately. It seems
it's Calais.
Spanish.
Yeah.
As Supergirl, Michael Keaton, Ben Affleck as the Batman. And I wrote The Creep.
Yes, Peter.
Because the Creep is in it. The Creep squared, in fact. Yes. And then the final the final movie trailer was Guardians 3. We got a Super Bowl trailer for that. It's probably the final trailer now because it's due out in May.
It is, yes.
Yes. And
very sad. They're going to show Baby Rocket because that's all Disney does these days is make baby versions of things.
Yeah, to appeal to younger audiences and sell toys. Because hey, the Mando sold a fuck ton of baby toys.
Yes.
Why can't they with Baby Groot? I don't know. I think I said to you at the time, it feels like someone's going to die.
Oh yeah, they're going. I think they're going to kill off
one
half
of the main characters. Yeah, yeah. Anyway,
yes, it'll be
has less of an emotional impact after watching them all get spaghettied in Guardians 2 and then get unspaghettied.
Yeah,
I don't know.
No. It's definitely going to be a closing of that chapter of Guardians. It also feels like it's just going to be it's Gunn's swan song before he jumps ship to the rival thing. So you expect Gunn to go out
swinging,
blazing. I said it. I'm sorry. Couldn't think of a better term. But yes, you want him to. He's going to go out with a bang. And whether or not it's him, going to Marvel and saying, "I'm going to kill off X amount of
kill off all your main characters."
Well, I mean, that's the thing in the Guardians comics. There's always been 2 or 3 of them get killed off, and then they reform the team, and it's
yeah.
But yeah, and we're finally getting Adam Warlock and a solid Adam Warlock, which is great. And then we'll see what happens. I'm excited. I guess this is actually a good little interaction, which I didn't do before. Intersection into. I did see Quantum Mania. How it came out. It was a misstep of an introduction of Kang. Kang is a pretty powerful villain person.
Because he was kind of introduced in Loki.
Yeah, that was a different version. This is in Jonathan Majors plays a very different version of this character in this one.
And he did warn. I can't remember what he calls himself in Loki, but he did warn that the other version of him,
the one who remains. This is pure Kang the Conqueror. This is
and he did warn that if you allow my alter ego to come out, you're going to regret it.
Well, alternate version, yeah, it's not even alter ego. It's like it's alternate version. It's yes, it's very much. It's a very different Ant-Man movie to the ones we've had. They've obviously always been like, yes, there's all this, use the term ground level in terms of the supporting act of what happens in that. None of those guys are in this. Yeah, it's very much, it's pure quantum realm. Like within the first 10 minutes, you're there.
Everybody gets a Pym suit.
Yeah, basically. Some interesting and fun cameos. There's been some. Yes, I'm sure you might
about.
I'm sure you've seen some meme references to other films from the late 90s that reminds everyone of.
I didn't see those.
Oh well, don't look for them. Watch it. I'd probably
I saw lots of references to them fucking MODOK.
Yes. They did not do the machine. What is it? The machine organism designed only for killing justice. Yeah. But it was a kind of a fun throwback of the thing. It was just it was kind of felt like the Love and Thunder thing where it's like this probably should have been a bit more serious around that thing, but you made it a bit too jokey.
Yeah. They seem to have done that. I mean, yeah.
They used to balance the comedy and the seriousness quite well. They've definitely leaned more to like polarizing versions of this is a comedic moment, this is deadly serious, but now this is comedic and now this is deadly serious kind of thing.
And they've been missing some of those beats, I think, as as well.
It's a setup. It's a setup for the next arc of the MCU. It just feels like probably not the character you would have actually chosen to do that with. Kang has a lot of potential to be a big threat level villain for an entire universe kind of thing. He is given the chance to shine, but then he's kind of MacGuffined out of it. But is he MacGuffined out of it? There's a bit of a twist at the end. You're like, and they play that scene off quite well. There's just a few little things where it's like, oh, cool. This is like a bit dystopian end to what you do. And then there's a chance for it to like be a bit like a bleak round off for certain stories of the characters. And then they neatly tie it up and go, oh no, don't worry. And then it's just like, oh fuck, come on, man.
Yeah, it was like a bit of a rip off.
Yeah. It was a bit it was a bit of a misstep on the way they handled Kang, I think. Like they had a chance to show him in a lot better light in terms of like his power levels. And I know they've obviously got to build him up to be for the next arc of the MCU. So you can't have him go all out first off kind of thing. But also I think that would be kind of refreshing to be like, holy shit. Like
just
that's what we're up against.
The cast
like,
of a whole movie.
Yeah. It was fun. Like Paul Rudd's great as usual. Evangeline Lilly was underutilized. Michelle Pfeiffer and what's his old mate name?
Who was Douglas. Underutilized? Sorry,
Evangeline Lilly, who plays Wasp. Yeah, she was underutilized. Michelle Pfeiffer and Michael Douglas were used okay-ishness. They were given a bit of like, the golden rope kind of storytelling, get out of situation thing. And then the daughter did well. The young actress who plays the daughter of Scott Lang, Cassie. Yeah. She did good.
Catherine Newton.
That's the one. Yeah. So yeah, she does well, especially because I haven't really seen her in anything else that I can think of off the top of my head. And to have a kind of a debut in an MCU film, that's a bit of pressure. So she does well. Jonathan Majors is brilliant. I'm a big fan of Jonathan Majors. Not only because he's
Pokemon, by the way.
He's ripped to shit. Like you could grate cheese on that man's chest and be happy with the pizza that came out of it, kind of thing. But he's also just a brilliant range of actor. The way he delivers some of his lines, he was definitely the
standout.
He and the linchpin of the kind of the film. Like he kept it all together, made it feel the gravitas that it needed to do, but also at the same time could play like super crazy thing or like the super reserved thing. So yeah, it's fun. I'd suggest watching it. I would probably like. It's sad. I really like the MCU. I'm a big Marvel fan, obviously, but it's like it's slowly becoming the thing where it's like, yeah, I'm gonna go see it at the films, but like, I'd probably just rather watch it at home.
I think Dan and I got to that place before you did, but it was almost inevitable you'd get there as well.
Yeah, but I'm also kind of getting that like with most things now. Like I'd like, yeah, I could go to the cinema to watch it, but I'd also like, it was one of those movies where it was like, there was a perfect moment where I was like, I could pause right now. And, if I was at home, I could pause it and go get another beer and this would be perfect. This would be a great, cinematic experience. But obviously you can't do that anymore because you're back in a room full of fucking idiots. Yeah. But yeah, it was fun. It was good. It for setting up the next phase, it does a good job. But for some of the characters that needed a bit more of like a oomph, I felt it slightly underdelivered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Anyway, that was my little. I forgot to put that review in before because I didn't write notes today because I'm an idiot.
It's all good. The last trailer for Trailer Trash was Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League. I'm not impressed by this. I must admit, I didn't watch the 15 minutes of footage that dropped.
I watched the whole 15 minutes.
Really?
Jesus Christ, it was boring. I was just waiting for something to happen.
Yeah, nah. It just
way to kill a great concept of a game.
It is the action. It's the action bullshit RPG that we're just getting fucking too many of.
Oh, it was
bullet sponges.
Shoot the weak. It fucking reminded me of the Square Enix Avengers. Like, yes, you can play by yourself, but it's better if you got 4 mates. It's like, I don't want to play with my fucking mates.
And by the way,
normally they're not on it when I am. Yeah.
And if you play by yourself, you still need an internet connection for the game to work.
That was pretty stupid.
What the fuck is with that?
Yeah.
Microtransactions are in. Bullet sponge enemies. It's the same
old... Shoot the purple spot. Shoot the purple spot.
Same old
Shoot the purple
shit.
Spot. Yeah.
Yeah, like...
But even the characters came across as boring.
Yeah.
Like, the only one I could... And this is the same thing with Gotham
Captain
Knights.
Boomerang's weapon of choice is a shotgun.
Whose?
Fucking Boomerang.
Yeah.
Give the guy a boomerang, for fuck's sake.
We had the boomerang, but it was his melee.
Yeah.
Because that's what a boomerang is. Because you don't throw a boomerang.
No, you bludgeon people to death.
You use it like a Bowie knife. Yeah. When you can teleport. Yep. It was uninventive. It was boring gameplay. It's
a cash in on the IP.
But it's Rocksteady. They made the Arkham series, which were amazing, and it's just like, what's wrong, guys? Like, did we just get bored?
I think it's an industry problem, man. I mean, there's too many games coming out like this for this not to be an industry problem, and I feel like it's just a cash in.
Game as a service thing because you can continually make money off it. And look, I get it because game studios are expensive to run, and there's like, for something you only
because it's a whole new concept. It's only come out in the last 10 years, and they had to figure out how to make money. Fuck off.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but it just feels lazy, and
we did things fine for 40 years one way. It's just shareholders demand more dividends, so we just need to squeeze the fucking last drops of blood out of the stone. And you know what? There's not much blood left in the stone because gamers are abandoning those types of games faster than they can put them out.
Yeah, they smash through it and then they just don't touch it.
Well, Avengers was a flop.
Yeah, but that was also a broken fucking game. So, but I
don't know that this is going to be any better.
No, and I don't think it will. I honestly don't think it will. And I looked at it now and I was like, originally I was like, oh yeah, that was a kind of cool concept.
We talked about it. We talked about how fun it would be for the three of us and maybe like a Siri or someone to jump in as the fourth character and play the game. But
I don't even want to do that anymore.
I'm amazed that you got through the 15 minutes of footage. I skipped through and got bored even watching one frame in every 4,000. It took me less than a minute to get through 15 minutes of gameplay footage to scrub through it, and I was already bored.
Yeah, it doesn't look good, and it is being ripped to shreds online as well, as it should be. Like, I'm sorry, if there's anyone from Rocksteady who would even think to listen to this, you should be fucking embarrassed. Like,
not only for the game, but also listening to our podcast.
That too, but still, like, you've come from lofty heights.
Yeah.
Like, the Arkham series is a stepping stone for games to base themselves on to get to a AAA title. And you put out this shit, like, uppercut yourself. I'm going to use this term from last episode. Like, seriously, take a long, hard look at yourself and just being like, what are we doing? Like, why would you do it? I would be so disappointed if I was part of that team to put that out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just, And look, it's the same thing with Gotham Knights. It was like, sure, it's potentially a cool concept, and I'm sure you could have fun running around with your mates, but it's like, I have limited game time. I can't sync that up anymore as a mid-30s person. Like, can't sync that with mates to get on and get it at the same time. Like, especially in my line of work where it's like, sometimes I'll be like, fuck, my phone could go off any moment and be like, oh my God, the brewery's on fire. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'll come down.
Yeah, your shift finishes at 4 and you're still there at 7. That happens all the fucking time.
Yeah. And it's just like, to force you into that kind of to get the best out of the gameplay experience, you need to play with that with your mates and
Well, the other thing is it just pisses me off that because you want to sell me, you want to jam fucking microtransactions down my throat. I can't play a single player game without an always on internet connection.
Yeah.
How about fuck off?
Yeah, exactly. I thought they learned that lesson with the always on line internet, but I guess not.
No, they haven't. They will, but they haven't. Let's move on. I'm gonna quickly do a spotlight on PSVR 2.
Do it. You do that while I sit here and sip this beer.
Yeah, I won't harp on it for too long because it's kind of first impressions. I've had it now since release day. So what's that? 4 weeks ish? Not even
3.
3? Yeah,
3-ish weeks. Yeah.
And I've only played 2 games. I've played Horizon Call of the Mountain and Pavlov VR.
Yeah.
Horizon Call of the Mountain. So first of all, let's talk about the hardware. The hardware is fucking spectacular. The goggles, and I said this to you guys on chat, I think, not long after I got it. For PSVR 1, it was a compromise. It was, I can accept a visual and obvious drop in video quality, graphics quality, for the 3D VR experience. It was a compromise, and it was a compromise I was prepared to make, and your brain quickly gets past the blocky, shitty 80s graphics.
Yeah.
That compromise does not exist in VR2 at all. The quality of the video, the quality of the graphics is what you would expect out of a full-blown PS5 game. Now, Will that still be true in 18 months' time when we're pushing the edges of efficient coding for PSVR's hardware? Probably not. Right. PSVR 2 is going to hit hit a ceiling well before PS5 does. But right now, the graphics in Horizon Call of the Mountain are exactly the same texture quality as either of the two full-blown Horizon games.
Right.
It is excellent quality graphics. And as I suspected, and I suggested to you guys when we were talking about some of the trailers, the 2D graphics versions of the VR games don't do VR justice because foveated rendering is baked in. So
which is what again? That's
the eye tracking. So it decreases the quality everywhere that you aren't looking.
Yeah.
So if you've got the TV on while you're playing VR, you're getting that represented in the TV version. So when you're looking at a trailer, you're seeing 90% of the screen is shit quality and 10% is really sharp. That's because the person playing VR is only looking at that 10%. But from his perspective, everything's perfectly sharp because when he moves his eyes around, it's all perfectly rendered wherever he's looking.
Yeah, right.
So trailers look crap.
Yes.
But the actual graphics are fantastic in-game.
Okay, cool.
The controllers are fantastic and intuitive. I've not had any issues with those two controllers at all.
And they're more like almost like a glove in.
Yeah, they're more like a gun trigger. Like they're gun triggers.
They're not the wand and the.
No. And they feel intuitive. They feel natural. They're like holding two guns. All of the buttons are in the exact place that you think they should be. There's some good in-game representations of the controllers until you get used to where the X and circle buttons and all the rest of it are.
Right.
The batteries do only last 3 or 4 hours, but you'll struggle. Yeah, look, one problem with the VR2 headset is it's comfortable, it's light, the cable's no issue, but it's a fucking furnace.
Yes. Every review I've seen on trophy hunting groups for people doing Call of the Mountain has just been Horizon Call of the Sweaty Brow. Or like
it's not Horizon. Like it's just all VR. It's the headset. Mate, I get to a point in Pavlov.
So I think that they're talking about
because of that experience. With that, yeah. So in Pavlov, I'll snipe for the first hour. After that point, there's too much sweat running over my eyeball for me to be able to see clearly, and the goggles don't quite fog up, but they start slipping around in your head. And like all VR goggles, there has to the lenses need to be perfectly aligned to your pupil for text to be clear.
Yeah,
and it's the same with sniping. If you're looking down a scope, everything's fuzzy the minute those goggles fall out of alignment.
Right. Okay.
So as you start to sweat and those goggles start shifting around a bit more, you look down your scope in your sniper rifle and shit's fuzzy.
Yeah, that's not good.
No. So so a couple of things. So that's the goggles themselves. Graphics fantastic. Handset. The new controllers are brilliant.
Yeah.
The two games I've played, Horizon, I couldn't get into. It's Horizon, climb the mountain. Climb every mountain over and over and over again. That's all it is. It's a climbing game. You sit on your couch and you literally do this for the whole fucking game.
I'm like, good workout.
It was interesting and new and different to start with, but after that, and oddly, it made me feel sick every time I played it.
Which is not something you normally have had with
never
VR
had any
before,
nausea whatsoever with VR. But for some reason, that particular game, there's this background nausea. It's not strong enough for me to stop playing. But every time I finish playing, I'm like, I was hungry for lunch. Now I'm not.
Yeah, okay.
Just background nausea. And I thought that was maybe the goggles, but then I started playing Pavlov. And I can tell you, I can play Pavlov for 3 or 4 hours. It's sweat fest. I usually have a beer next to me, and then in between sessions, there's this brilliant invention. They put a button underneath the headset that uses the front-facing cameras to show you what's going on in the real world around you in black and white.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So you can see through
like
the goggles.
Scope.
Yes, you can see through the goggles, and I use that to find my beer, and I can drink my beer without taking the goggles off. It's brilliant. It's designed to help you figure out where you are in the real world, and you do need to reset. So Pavlov, you play standing. Because if you want to squat behind cover, you need to kneel in real life. And in fact, I've got a pub stool in my house because a couple of bar stools. So when I'm sniping, I actually usually put one in front of the TV so that I can kneel and rest on it just to line up. Because I'll tell you what, holding two controllers out like this and keeping them perfectly aligned to your eye over any kind of period of time, basically impossible.
Yeah.
Snipers do it, so it makes sense.
Well, no, snipers, literally use sandbags and bipods. But Pavlov VR is a fucking brilliant game. It's not a PSVR 2 game. It's a Quest game. It was written for PC like 3-4 years ago. It's not new at all.
Yeah.
But it's basically Counter-Strike. I don't know if you ever played Counter-Strike, the original Half-Life mod, but okay, that was Pete. You're insulting me by asking.
Yes.
I see that face. I hear you.
Counter-terrorists win.
There's even a map called Sand, which is not an exact rip-off of Dust, but it's fucking close enough. So, first of all, Counter-Strike is a brilliant game mechanic to start with. And it's
absolutely
whilst it's simple, there's no RPG elements, there's no unlocks, there's none of that bullshit from modern games, and yet it is hideously addictive.
Oh, yeah.
Did you kill the guy? You get some money. Did you kill that guy? You get some money. You can buy
the bomb mechanic. Yeah. So and this is where Pavlov fucking shines. Every weapon is represented in VR as real as you can get. So if you're using an F88 style, which is the Australian Army standard issue assault rifle, you need to know that the charge pulls on the on the left. And so when you reload, because it's a bullpup, you have to literally use your controller to grab the fucking empty magazine, take it out, throw it on the ground, grab another mag from your belt, jam it in, switch hands, and pull the charge tab back, which is completely different from an MP5 submachine gun, where the charge cable's on the right and it's a forward-facing mag. Yeah. You need to know there's a 50 cal Barrett sniper rifle, single shot bolt action. You take your shot, you have to literally lift open the chamber, grab a single 50 cal bullet, stick it in the chamber, and then close it again. And you do this all manually in VR before taking your next shot. So much fun. So much fun. Arming the bomb. You hold a bomb and it's got a keypad and it tells you a number 4. You have to use your finger in VR land to hit the number 4. And you put in this 6-digit sequence and then mount the bomb. If you want to disarm it, if you didn't buy the clippers, you have to punch in these numbers again. Except if you fuck up one of the numbers, you go back to the start. Meanwhile, clock's ticking.
Yeah.
It's just really fun mechanics like that.
Yeah, cool.
Well thought out. Apparently, we're one patch ahead of PC.
Okay.
And so they've talked about releasing that patch level to the PC version. And when that happens, you'll have PSVR 2 crossplay with Quest 2 and all the other
cool
currently supported VR headsets in PC. It's also got a thriving mod community. So there's a lot of other game styles that haven't been released to PSVR 2 yet, but they're coming with the patch.
Cool.
So can't talk higher than I mean it's brilliant.
Yeah,
apart from the furnace.
By talking to it's just it's the amount of kind of airtime you've given to Pavlov already just in our chats. It's just like it does sound pretty fucking cool. Yeah.
Yeah. It's clean, simple fun. The only problem is like VR1, it is a bit of fucking around to get it on. It's easier. I mean, it's got one cable. It takes 10 seconds to put it on your head and start playing. But it is one more thing, and you're standing up in the middle of your living room. It's not as simple as just playing a PS5 game. So there is that level of complexity. There's kind of an entry point into it, but at the same time, it's a different gaming experience you can't recreate otherwise. I'm looking forward to Journey the Foundation VR. So they've announced a VR game based on Asimov's Foundation, which looks more closely aligned to the TV series Foundation because the book and the TV series are quite different. Yep. And Firewall Ultra, which will be interesting to see how they pull off a Tom Clancy. This is the second Firewall VR game.
Okay, all right.
It's going to be interesting to see if they do it justice.
Was the first one good? Have you played the first one?
I haven't played it.
Okay.
I just hope they do some AAA titles because it needs it.
Yeah, I mean,
we've talked about that to death.
That's definitely been a talk to death thing.
But worst case, if VR2 can continue to cross-play support against Quest 2 and the other PC, like the other premier PC headsets, then there's more reason for a AAA developer to write a game because now they're not just addressing a PlayStation 5 plus PSVR 2 market. They're addressing everyone who's got a VR headset. There's a lot more money to be made that way.
Yes. I guess my final question for you around the whole thing is, and obviously this is hard, probably a harder question for you to answer because your view is justifiably skewed. But if you were someone on the fence, would you invest in a VR2?
Look, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money to spend.
What is it? Same base, 750, kind of same
slightly, it's more expensive. It's more expensive. No. It's 800 or 900 if you want the game. So if you want Call of the Mountain.
Yeah.
So it's more expensive than the actual PS5.
Yes.
So the question becomes less, is it worth investing? Because the answer is, I think it is yes. I mean, I would say if it wasn't for developers not investing time and money in making AAA titles, it would easily be declared the future of gaming. Because any game that I can imagine is better in VR.
Yeah, well, yeah. Okay.
So then it comes down to, do you have $800 of disposable income? That's really the question. Because it's hard to answer a question like, is it worth investing in something you don't need and nobody needs? Nobody needs it. So no, it's not worth investing.
Let's be honest. Technically, no one needs a PS5, but I would.
That's what I mean. So so it's hard to answer that question, and it's 878.
And I understand that, and I said that in that was a bit of a caveat, but it was like, I mean, I can think of games that wouldn't be better in VR. I would definitely not play a Far Cry game in VR. I know they've released Far Cry 3 in VR, but I've tried to play Far Cry, going through the series recently. I've tried to play them hungover, and I don't usually get nauseous hungover, but playing that game hungover makes me want to spew everywhere. There's so many moments where it's like, there's so many moments where you're like in like a glider and then you land, and the way they do the land animations, it kind of makes you roll and you're just like, okay, Christ.
Yeah. Look, when I say it's the future of gaming, I don't mean PSVR 2 is the future. I mean, if they continue to refine this the way that they have video game consoles, you can easily see in 15 years' time there wouldn't be a non-VR version of games. There might be two-dimensional.
I can just imagine how amazing
mechanics.
It would have been playing Ragnarok in that VR headset setting, but with a controller.
Anything first person instantly transfers. I think over the shoulder works as well. I mean, Skyrim, you had the option to do over the shoulder VR, and it worked.
Yeah.
Would a 2D platformer work? Not really, but
looking around the, thinking about a third person game like Ragnarok, just thinking of looking around Muspelheim, for example, that would be just add such an extra element to the game.
Yeah. Now, would every game in 10, 15 years' time fully adopt an immersive experience? No, not necessarily.
No.
But if you invested in VR in a big way, then you would come up with alternate ways of developing games that still translated, but were in a VR world. I mean, they've already got a Populous game, right? Which is I can't remember what it's called, but you basically play the authorial god. You can pick up little people and move them around and watch them build and live their little lives. It's like Sims, but on a social society scale.
Yeah.
Which is an old school bullfrog game, Populous.
Yes.
It's not called that. I can't remember what it's called. But there
were a few of those where you played as the god character and you got to pick up your little dudes and stuff.
Now, that's not a traditional VR type setting. No, you wouldn't automatically think, that needs to go into VR, and yet they've done it and it works. So
no, it's definitely not something you think of that as a traditional kind of top down view. Yeah.
So I've been very, very impressed. But you are right. I would not play anything on VR hungover. I also wouldn't play anything on VR too drunk.
Yeah.
Which probably rules out anyone who smokes. Because I don't know if I'd want to be stoned standing in my living room. Now, I'm not playing a game that moves around. There's 3 modes. There's sit-down VR, there's standing VR, and there's moving VR. I've not played a moving VR game where you're supposed to walk around and interact with the universe.
Oh, okay. Right.
Pavlov is stand still, whereas Call of the Mountain you can sit.
Oh, okay. Right.
You can't play Pavlov sitting on your couch.
Because you've got to duck it.
It literally, the game won't start unless you're standing up. It detects the world around you and maps out your living room and uses spatial awareness and shit. And you can't sit on your couch. It won't let you.
Well, that's just rude.
Yeah. And it is because you have to move around, cover and dark and all the rest.
Yeah.
So that's an entry point problem, right? That means that you're not always going to be able to play that style of game because various reasons. Your missus is on the couch watching telly. She doesn't want a dickhead standing in front of her with goggles on.
I mean, kind of a funny thought to think of, but yeah.
Yeah. Whereas if it was a sit-down game like Call of the Mountain and you could ignore the dickhead next to you doing this in space, then your missus could be, or your significant other could be sitting next to you on the couch watching television while you're playing a video game that would traditionally be on TV but is now on goggles. You could do that. Yeah, you can't do that if you're standing up.
No.
Anyway, so that's my first impressions of VR2. Very,
cool.
very, very impressed.
Yeah, I mean that's a kind of glowing review in itself. Yeah.
And a crafting system. The last thing, crafting system in Call of the Mountain was pretty cool. You have to actually create your arrows.
Okay, that's kind of fun.
So like your fire arrows and stuff. Now the mechanic runs out real quick because it's the same mechanic for any type of arrow. You find the little canister of fire stuff, and then you find an arrowhead, and you find the feathers, and you put the arrow together by putting those 3 elements with an arrow shaft.
Yep.
But it's a cool idea. It's a cool idea. Same with Pavlov. If you hold your gun out in front of you,
you're not actually fletching the arrows mid-game.
No, you're not sitting there whittling the shafts or anything. Pavlov's the same. You can hold the gun sideways, and you can pull off the scope, and you can pull off the Picatinny rail-mounted handles. You can deconstruct your gun. I don't know why the fuck you would want to, because it's not like you can walk around, find scopes on the ground.
Yeah,
but they put the mechanic in.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, shall we move on to our 4th and final beer?
Yes, I've just pulled it across to me. I haven't poured it yet. You can go first if you've poured. I have not poured.
Mm-hmm. I can. My 4th and final beer is another Eckham Brewing. This one is the Bloodshot Red IPA. I don't know if that's going to.
Oh, they've changed the branding on that one.
Yes, it is a red IPA brewed with red malt and oats, giving it plenty of rich malt flavor, balanced out with a big double dry hop. There's lots of resinous and piney notes on offer. I'm going to say this is canned 11th of January this year, so it's another freshie.
Yeah.
It has mellowed out a little bit, but it is very red IPA. I mean, it's exactly what you expect out of a red IPA, and the color's quite golden, golden red too.
That's naughty. That's a naughty color.
But thinner than a red ale, and nowhere near as bitter as you would expect out of a red ale.
Is it rich in toffee and caramels?
No.
I want my caramels. This is me bringing the Dan element into this end of the podcast.
You get a little bit of caramel. Definitely don't get the sweetness of toffee. You get a lot of bitterness. The bitterness almost drowns out any kind of pine notes. You can tell that there's hop. You can tell there's hops there, but they're not expressed loudly. So, is it well balanced or is it underwhelming?
Ooh,
underwhelming is the wrong adjective to use, because I will say it's a thoroughly enjoyable beer.
Yeah.
This is the second one I've had of this beer. There's 2 more in the fridge, and I'll probably polish the other 2 off tonight because it is thoroughly enjoyable as a beer. And it's a welcome departure from the red ales I've complained about before, where the bitterness just drowns everything else out, and I can't get through the beer. So,
yeah, but red IPAs are my jam. This is the perfect time of the year because it's just getting over being hot enough, and it's maybe there's a hint of frost in the air.
You say that, and yet we've just had the hottest day in 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's not accurate. It's not the most accurate system, but generally as a rule.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to a cooling down, I have to say. I'm going to give that a 4.25 because it is a genuinely impressive beer. I think I would like for you and Dan to try it because I'm judging it on its own merits, whereas you guys will be able to judge it as a style, as an expression of a style, and I can't really do that.
If I see a red IPA, I grab it.
I don't have enough experience with the style of beer to be able to tell you where it stands up against its competitors, if that makes sense.
Right, okay. Yeah.
But in and of itself, 4.25 out of 5 is a pretty high score for a Pete because Pete's a bit of a C when it comes to scoring beers. Most of my scores sit between 3.5 and 4, so...
Yeah, you are a tight ass, that's true.
I'm a tight ass when it comes to Untapped. Also, the labels. I mean, look, it's one of those cheap stick-on labels that literally peeling as I got it out of the 4-pack packaging. It was pre-peeling on a silver can, so obviously one of those old school canning lines. Oh, Tom, finishing with a very, very dark beer there. What are you drinking, Montflair?
Oh, it's Cascadian, and it's dark, and it's rich, and it's roasty, and it's piney, and it's good. I am having a seasonal release from the Sydney Brewery. Sydney Brewery.
Oh, yeah.
I will say this with full clarity. I probably would never have gone out and bought this beer. But one of the former batch brewers has moved on to work for the Sydney Brewery, and she dropped off a mixed case. And there were a few of these seasonal releases in there. And I said, you know what? Fuck yeah, I'm going to try one of Danny's beers. Yes, Danny, I just called you out. I know you won't listen to this because you don't listen to podcasts. But that is fine.
What's it called, mate?
This is the Sydney Brewery Speakeasy Black IPA. It is 6%. So Sydney Brewery is kind of Surrey Hills, but then they also brew up in the Hunter Valley. So I actually don't know if this was brewed Hunter Valley or the Sydney Brewery. The Sydney Surrey Hills Brewery is tiny,
good old
small.
Slurry Hills.
Good old Slurry Hills, yes. It's a tiny little brew kit compared to the one they have up in the Hunter, where they do most of the Sydney Brewery core range. They obviously do up there. I'm assuming this has probably been done in the Surrey Hills region, which is cool. They've done a big dry hop of Citra, Amarillo, and Chinook, which you get straight off the bat. There is a massive US hop.
Chinook's pretty loud.
Yeah. It hits you in the face. It is a nice blend of that roasty character that you want from a good black IPA, but then with a like really bright hop hit above that, and that like citrus that kind of cuts through that roastiness, and that's what I'm 100% getting. And look, I've got to be completely honest. Like, I wouldn't have thought the Sydney Brewery were capable of making such a good example of a black IPA, but it's great to see that they can. I don't like most of their core range. I'll be fully upfront about that. I haven't liked them for years. I used to find them around because I used to live in Surrey Hills, so I used to find them around like some of the local bars. Every time I have one, I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah, it's kind of, it didn't stand out. This stands out. This is a great example of a black IPA. So I'm super impressed. They say subtle dark malt characters, but I really like it. It's
not subtle.
Yeah, subtle but not subtle. Like, yeah. Doesn't say it doesn't have a package date on it. It does say the best before is the 13th of Feb 24. So assuming they're putting a year on it, it's probably been brewed mid-Feb.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's super tasty. I wouldn't maybe have like 2 of them before I'd be like, holy yeah, okay, I'm done. Like
palate fatigue.
Not even palate fatigue, just entire face fatigue. Like the aroma would have like smashed through your nose, and like, yeah, definitely that palate would have been crushed. But that's super solid, and yeah, impressed to see what the Sydney Brewery are doing with that, and kind of like a nice little, turnaround from what they've been doing the last few years. It's 4.5. That's great.
4.5.
Yeah.
Big number.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
That is
good
cracking
stuff. And I've got to say that's we've I mean, so maybe not so much 8 Wired, but done a decent job tonight and One Drop actually. We've at least sampled some breweries that we don't frequently sample. Which is good.
We've spread our wings, so to speak.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to spend the next 20
we're going to round it out.
25-ish minutes.
An extended. Are you winning, Sean?
Yeah. Because we've both been playing the same game, other than my VR experience that I've just talked about, which is we both have been playing quite a lot of Hogwarts Legacy.
Yes.
An extremely controversial video game for reasons that have nothing to do with the video game too.
Which
so
is
we're going to
annoying.
skip all that. Yeah, I don't have any commentary that I want to make on the podcast about the noise. I don't. Feel free to add what you want to add, but
nope. I actually want to skip the whole even mention of it, but that's fine.
Yep. I think it would be
we can't ignore it. No.
Yeah, we don't have to give it airtime because I don't think it deserves any. No. Just to note that there is controversy, but more around the backstory, not the game itself. So let's talk about the game. How close to plat are you on it?
I'm currently glitched out of the plat.
Oh no!
Yeah.
What trophy? You poor bugger. That's annoying.
No. I'll go through that. So I am, in terms of the story, I'm midwinter is where I'm up to.
Okay.
That said, the collectible side of the thing, I am 90% done. Like, I've just been running around the world, really enjoying immersing myself in the world. For those who, like us, like getting the platinum for things, for this one, you have to play the first. I think I got it down to about 2-3 hours.
You did it faster than that. I know what you're talking about, but assuming you did the auto save.
No, I didn't do the auto save. I've been playing the opening mission every time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I kind of enjoyed it.
Okay, fair enough.
I like
enjoyed
it when he goes, "We're in the Scottish Highlands." I'm like, yeah, that's kind of cool. Yeah. So you've got to play up to a certain point in each house to get the plat trophy, which I found the best way to do it. And I don't know if you did this, Pete, but every season change, I've gone back and done my next house.
I did that. I got hit by a different trophy glitch than you did. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So I could not. There was a collectibles. Yeah. There was a collectibles glitch where you could get all the collectibles, but it wasn't registering them on PS5, and so I'd finished everything else in the game. So that's when I went back to get my 3 house trophies for the houses I didn't play through on my main
I've also
playthrough.
taken this a lot slower because of I haven't had much gaming time at the moment. Yeah. But it's like that's actually very So I've been going through. So the game is kind of divided into 4 sections based on the seasons of the school year. So yes, having just hit winter with my main character, I've gone back and done my second, third playthrough of the opening thing. And I've done my that character and stuff. No, so the trophy I'm actually glitched out of is the side quests because I've hit what they call the biscuit bug.
Okay.
There is a side quest mission where you have to go and save this goblin's little creature. And if you've gone to the camp before you start the side quest and open the lock doesn't reappear for the side quest, so you can't finish the side quest off because you can't open the cage with the little creatures inside. Obviously, the developers know about it. They've got a lot of stuff going on at the moment where they're trying to get out the PS4 and the previous gen versions, and they've had to delay that. So I'm sure that, which is fine for me as someone who's slowly playing through it. But if I had all the free time in the world, I'd be like,
chop chop. Why the fuck isn't this fixed?
Fix this.
It's
been weeks that this has been an issue you've known about. Like,
yeah,
and it's that kind of thing. It's like, I know you guys aren't a live service game, but still, like, you've still got a development team, and I
still need to release a game that's not foundationally broken. And Plat Trophy's pretty fundamental these days.
Yeah, and I've gone back to, and they've got one particular guy they refer to, like, everything I've searched in this thing. It's like, follow this guy on Twitter. Like, he's one of the leads of this part of, like, the community development side thing, and he's been pretty active about, like, knowing things that are going wrong in the game, and this is how you can fix it. But since I've encountered this thing, I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'll follow this guy and see what he's got to say about it. Everything's been posting that. He's been like, we've just been doing launch parties. And I was like, can you get back to work and finish fixing the shit?
Yeah.
Like, I'm very happy for you, and congratulations on all your success. But also fix my broken thing so I can enjoy it, because I paid you money for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So overall, how have you found the game? Do you have any criticisms? I know I'm leading you because I've got some comments.
I have some criticisms. Growing up, I was right in the middle of the book release schedule. So I was one of those people who would, being the oldest member of my sibling family,
cohort,
my crew, my whatever you want to call us. I had the best reading ability of the people who were interested in Harry Potter. So as the new books came out, I got to read it first, and then I would pass it down the chain. So I was the one who had to go on launch day. It was kind of like pre-ordering a game. Like, I went to Dimmicks on the launch day, and there was massive Harry Potter parties, and, like, I sat with people in the store, and you found a corner wherever you could, and you just started reading through the book, and you get through 8 chapters, and you'd be like, oh shit, I've got to go home. Like, what am I doing? So yeah, I did that part, and then obviously the movies around that, like, they were all coming out, and I went to midnight launches for the movies and all that kind of stuff. I was quite into it. And I got to tell you, my biggest fucking gripe so far with the game and with the reference to the movie and book world is, and you may laugh, and you probably will laugh at being like, it's quite petty, but it's, why the fuck am I doing a mini game for unlocking locks with the Alohomora spell? Because that is an instant unlock fucking shit. And that is one of the things that's really pissed me off. I quite enjoy the Merlin trials. I think they're fine. Yes, they're repetitive. They're super repetitive. The animation you can't skip. Whatever.
You need 95 of them, Tom. You need to do 95 Merlin trials, and there is no in-game incentive past the 40th. What a fucking joke.
Yeah, but it made me
content.
But it made me go and explore the map, and I've actually quite enjoyed that part of the thing. I've loved going through the map, and I ride my broom through it.
Let's dive into that.
Yeah, but it's the thing that's really bugging me is opening locks, and when I have to go, and I cast a spell, and I go Alohomora, and then I go, oh, that should unlock, and then I'm like, oh wait, no, I've got to go right trigger that way, left trigger that way, or swim around a little bit.
The in-game mechanic is what you're talking about.
Well, it's just having to do that because
couldn't fucking agree more.
But that's not what the spell is. The spell is an instant unlock thing. It's not
it's an unlock spell, not a spell to start a mini game.
Yeah. So that was pretty stupid.
The actual mini game is so puerile too.
Oh, I mean, it's so common. It's the dual lock turn your controller sticks one way and one the other way. The other thing I've found super annoying is, so they said just right before the launch that they'd taken, well, they hadn't developed properly, or they just decided to rip the whole Quidditch element out, and they really like ham-fisted in a reasoning why, being like, oh, there was a really bad injury last season.
Talk about back justification.
Yeah. But then they've got so many elements, or like character models, or like models for things that should be involved in Quidditch in other parts of it, that it's like, you guys just didn't.
It was so obvious. Yeah. It was so obvious that it was designed to be in the game.
Yeah. Look, the spells are great. They feel like they should. I like the fact that the unforgivables, like, you can go either way with them. Like, if you want to get them, you can, but you
can play the whole game not touching them.
You're not forced to in any way, and it doesn't affect your
especially like in the trophy things sense of it, like that's not part of the spells you need to learn. They're optional. They're a bonus.
One of my complaints is it also doesn't affect your playthrough at all. And it fucking well should.
Yeah.
You can use the unforgivable curses in front of the school fucking principal.
Morals in the whole thing. Yeah.
There's even a couple of the side characters make comment that you're using some of the. Obviously, you've got no problems with dark magic. I think is one of the side comments one of the side characters makes. But that's it. There's no repercussion whatsoever.
No, and that I think is a really big miss on from Avalanche.
Look, overall I enjoyed the 20-ish hours of gameplay, of actual storyline play.
Yeah.
But I think it was set in a open world, and the 98% of the open world that you don't need to interact with for the core storyline was lazily written. Really fucking lazy.
Yeah, I granted I'm let's say 60% of the way through the main story.
Yep.
But I still have no pull or feel like I need to be pulled towards that whole South Coast region, which kind of doubles the size of the map.
Tom, you never will. There's a couple of missions right at the end where you need to go to a specific location. But look, the world's really amazingly fleshed out in Hogsmeade and Hogwarts. Hogwarts Castle is spectacular.
You get lost in it.
And you get lost because it's interesting.
You just want to keep wandering the halls. Yeah.
It's like they spent 90% of their effort in those two locations. And the rest of the open world, like the Forbidden Forest, was genuinely interesting and a little bit scary, intimidating at the start of the game.
Yeah.
But it's so quickly that wears off, where it becomes like a null and void fucking area. There were so many. This game could have, like, it wasn't a bad game, don't get me wrong. The actual storyline was thoroughly enjoyable, well executed. The open world setting, I think, was a fucking joke. And I really stand by the statement that it's lazy. So when you talk about 95 Merlin Trials, it's a mini game for those who aren't playing the game and never will. It's a mini game sequence where there are only 5 different mini games. So you activate Merlin's trial.
Yeah.
And one of them, as an example, one of them is 3 pillars will come out of the ground and 3
sets
them on
fire in the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, one of them is use your fire spell on the 3 pillars within 30 seconds and you beat it. And another one is 3 pillars come up and 3 sets of glowworm clouds appear somewhere in the world nearby. And you have to use your light spell to attract the glowworms to the 3 pillars.
Yes.
And it's not on a timer. And so there's 3 or 4 other mini games like that. They're pretty fucking simple to solve.
Yeah, and they just repeat. Yeah.
They repeat 95 times. That's not content. That's copy-paste.
Yeah, but let's be honest. Like, and this is where the Dan would come in and be like, but there's no push for us besides us wanting to get the plat to do those.
So, okay, so let's talk about that. So have you heard of, and this is not because I hadn't, right? So this is not a trick question. Had you heard of CD Projekt Red's 40-second rule for Witcher 3?
No.
Okay. So what they said in an interview a long time ago for Witcher 3 was the way they gauged how much content they needed to build into the Witcher 3 open world was the player, while they're exploring the world, should come across some interesting thing every 40 seconds of real life time.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So within 40 seconds of moving in any direction in the Witcher 3 overland map, you'll either come across some random event like a stag will suddenly appear, or you'll get jumped by a monster, or there'll be a point of interest, or a collectible, or a main mission, or a side mission. But 40 seconds in any direction in that overland map is about the amount of time between events in the game to keep the user engaged. And they did heavy research into that time.
Yeah.
So someone took the time to map out the points of interest in Hogwarts, and they found that Hogwarts used a 15-second timer instead of 40.
Yes.
And
there's
in fact,
a lot.
And you can do that in Horizon as well. And there's a correlation. They believe there's a correlation between how much content you sprinkle in an open world as to whether or not that open world is successful, like a Horizon game, or unsuccessful, like some of the other open world games we've talked about before that have been flops. And I thought that was really interesting. My problem with Hogwarts Legacy specifically is, whilst they've applied that 15-second rule, there's plenty of content. It's not engaging content. It's not interesting content. Copying and pasting the same basic 5 mini games 95 times is not interesting past the first 10, 15, 20. There's some repetition everyone's prepared to accept.
Yeah.
But it gets to a point where it's just like, I'm only doing this for the fucking trophy. It's not the only example. Merlin Trials are not the only example.
No. I think and this comes down to the personally the way you play the game, but like for me, I've definitely found like I know they're repetitive, but then it's also like in my own head, I'm like, can I do this quicker? Like, how can I break this thing to make it me do it quicker or faster and kind of thing? So
but
I set my own little challenges within the challenge. Yeah.
But if you need to, doesn't that reflect the content itself? Yeah, but if you feel compelled to, doesn't that reflect the content itself is probably lackluster?
Yeah,
you wouldn't be inventing your own mini games.
That's just any collectible though. Like when you really break them down.
Look, I had more fun collecting all of the collectibles in Hogwarts than I did in Spider-Man, which we have talked about, and you said that you had no issues whatsoever with Spider-Man collectibles for the Plat. And I got really fucking bored doing all of the thug. It was all the thug mini missions. That was what I got stuck on at the end. Look, I've got some other examples of laziness in Hogwarts that pissed me off. The fucking voiceovers.
They're repetitive.
It's the same 5.
It's like all roads lead to Hogsmeade.
And you have no idea how hard travel was before I invented flu powder. The first 5 or 6 times you hear that in the background, you kind of giggle. The millionth time you've heard the same fucking statements.
And that's just when you think it probably comes down to like a programming thing with how, like, do you need to trigger those because it's obviously a proximity
It's 100% of the time.
Yeah. But you could probably cut it down to like, but that's the thing you've done with other games. Like I had the same problem with Biomutant when I was like, I'm fucking sick of this narrator, but you had an option to turn that down. It's like, that's probably a good thing for Avalanche to go, cool. Next time we do a Harry Potter based Hogwarts game, we might reduce that engagement from those NPCs to, from 100% of the time. Well, let's be honest, to 150% of the time to, maybe 50% of the time that they'll you'll trigger that as you walk past.
So let me just read out just quickly for readers, for listeners at home, the collectibles in this game. Now, there's 1,257 collectibles total. You don't need all of them. You need 603 to get the platinum.
Right.
They include 10 tools, 69 enemies, 89 appearances, 150 Revelio pages. So I'm not going to explain what all of these are, but take my word for it, and Tom's: 13 beasts, 75 traits, 42 wand handles, 140 conjurations, 16 ingredients, 13 brooms. They're the core collectibles, and by the time you finish the game, you've pretty much accidentally come across all of those. They're not
easily 80%.
Yeah,
80% is a minimum if you haven't really been looking. Yeah,
83 Flu Flames, which are your fast travel points, which you'll come across anyway. 95 Merlin Trials to me were a grind. They're a grind for 2 reasons. First of all, uninventive copy-paste mechanics. And the second one was just a pet peeve. When you successfully complete whatever the minigame is, there's a 3-second or 5, probably closer to 5-second unskippable cutscene. And it's the exact same cutscene all 95 times.
Yeah, some dude figured out that you actually waste, it's like 27 minutes of in-game time. Having to watch those? Someone did the math. Yeah.
So someone else was pissed off enough to fucking do the math. Yeah. 32 sets of balloons, fly through and pop the balloons. Yeah. 33 demiguise statues.
Man, I've been really enjoying the flying. That's been fun.
Yeah, the flying mechanic's great. Yeah. I think they had a massive miss on the flying beasts. Because it takes an extra 1 or 2 seconds. I
agree with you with this. And I know it's because I've been doing so much of the outside world before I discovered the ability to
fly on, a hippogriff or whatever.
Yep.
Or a thestral or something.
There's only 2 flying beasts. That's a miss in itself.
Yeah, it's just
considering there's like 20 beasts in the game.
You just said 13, so yeah.
Yeah,
and one
you have to breed.
One you get to ride on, but I haven't discovered them yet. But I know they're coming because I found their nests and I can't capture them. Yeah,
yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's that one. Yeah, okay, copy. It was just like it's one of those things that like depending on how you play it, if you just go smash through the story, it's probably worthwhile to fly on a beast. I know you said it was a bit of annoying because it took too long to conjure them. I was just like, I can definitely see that now having found them. But for me, it was just they just appeared too late in the game. And I was like, well,
they did appear mid game, and I mean like middle of storyline.
Yeah. But it's also like now I've got my broom's actually a little bit faster and a little bit easier to ride now.
Because you upgrade the broom, and it's faster than beasts. But the core reason I think 99% of players would be using the broom, not the beasts, all the time, is what I originally said to you, and that is to get the broom out and start flying from a standing start takes 0 seconds. It's instant.
Yeah, you just click and it's there.
I think it's you hold down. I don't even remember the key sequences that long ago for me.
L1 and circle.
L1 and circle. Conjured. Whereas to conjure your flying beast from a standing start,
L1
I think
it's triangle.
It's L1 and triangle, but then there's this 4-second animation of opening the bag and the creature comes out and he jumps on it. And that extra 3-4 seconds of video animation just make it not fucking worth it, because half the time when you're zipping between points, you're on your broom instantly. You're at your other point in 10 seconds time and you're back on the ground.
I think the bigger thing was actually more that when you would conjure the beast to fly on, you had to have more open area in front of you. You couldn't do it in tightest things. True. Where with the broom, you could be like, yeah, sweet, I've just jumped off the roof of this house. Also, yeah, the lack of fall damage in this game
was a surprise.
And also entertains me greatly because I love the idea. One of the things my mates used to hate watching me play games because I'd always test fall damage. It'd be like one of the first things I do.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this on the podcast, actually.
And I would just jump off the highest thing. And I've done that so many times. Unless you're in a mission, you basically like lose like a 10th of your health bar, which automatically generates. The other thing that's really annoyed me about this game, and it's a story point, which I won't go into for like spoiler purposes, but yeah. So you play as a 5th year student, which has been established before you even start the game. The thing that's really annoying me in the open world is like the amount. It feels like they've tried to create 2 games in a way. So there's the core school element, which is done really well, and that's perfect, and that like really like emulates the book and the feeling you get from reading the books. But then when you're in the open world, you're acting like a full-blown adult wizard, and there's people who are older than you trusting you to do things that they say, oh, it's too dangerous. And you're like, well, fuck it, I'm going to do it. It's the same with like the unforgivable spells and curses. It's like, I shouldn't be able to cast these and get away with it, but I probably shouldn't be doing these like problems, like finding missing persons for adults in like enemy camps when they won't, but I can because I'm
But they all cop out of that with all the side quests where like you need to go and rescue the MacGuffin from the really dangerous encampment. All of the adults giving you the quest are like, yeah, but you're too young, so don't you do it. Get someone else to do it. And you go, oh, okay, no worries. And then you go and do it yourself. And then you turn it in and they go, thank you so much.
Yeah, but that's the thing. That whole element feels like it should have been like part of a sequel where you come back as like an aura. Like that'd be really cool to be like, sure, you've developed more time in like the child quests for like students, co-students at the school and stuff that you get plenty of in the school as it is. But then like all the open world stuff, it's like it feels like they've put stuff that should probably be for like some sort of sequel or like.
Yeah, look, it's almost inevitable they're doing DLC, and given it's as much as there's controversy behind the game's killing it when it comes to making money.
If you look at the past Harry Potter games,
extremely popular.
I played some of them on the GameCube and the PS2 and PS3. It was just like they were shit compared to what we got right now. Like they would never.
this game is making millions of dollars. It's almost
but it was
inevitable
never
in making
so
a sequel.
immersive and made you feel like you were actually part of the school, so to speak. Yeah.
But so I think DLC is definite, and I think a sequel, they'd be dumb not to do a sequel given their success at the moment.
Yeah.
Couple of other things. This is first. I'm going to finish on a positive note, but the one thing I did want to say is this is not specific to Hogwarts. This is specific to quite a few games like Hogwarts, including Hogwarts, where they've implemented a RPG light element. It's like every open world game suddenly wants to introduce this RPG light element, and it's fucking clothing in Hogwarts.
Yeah.
I'm unsealing a dungeon that by definition has not been entered into for 2,000 years, and I open up a chest and I get literally what's called a modern school uniform piece of loot. How is a modern school uniform in a 2,000-year-old dungeon?
It's magic, Peter. It's magic.
How is this fucking sack of potatoes sized gold fucking sack? Like we're talking 20 kilo bag of cement size. Gold bag have 8 gold pieces in it.
They're very large gold pieces.
But mainly my complaint is with the clothing mechanic. The RPG element is there's stats on the clothing. There's offense and defense, and you can add. They're socketed, so you can craft sockets later on to add more defense on offense items and vice versa. Whoop-de-fucking-do. That's your RPG element. But seriously, there is nothing RPG about changing your clothing every 5 fucking minutes in any kind of... Can you imagine doing that in an old pen and paper RPG? Like, sorry, Dungeon Master, I've just picked... Every 5 minutes I'm going to pick up a new fucking scarf. We all have to stop playing so I can try it on, see if the stats are 1 better. It's not RPG. It's bullshit is what it is.
No, that's definitely... It's
not Hogwarts specific.
No, but that's a throwback to, like, Diablo 2. Like, that's where that started.
It's lazy fucking programming so they can say it's got RPG elements in it. That's what I think.
Yeah, but that's where it started. It started back with Diablo 2 and 3 where you would run through a dungeon. As you run through a dungeon, you pick up 18 different pieces of loot and one of them would have 1 better stat and you'd put it on and be like...
You'd try them all on so
suddenly
you've got the
I have Barbarian Chilling Plate and now I've got the Barbarian Axe of Fire.
Nothing RPG about it. Look, the last part...
It's
comment...
actually not RPG, it's RNG is what they should be referring to it as.
Yeah. And completely pointless too. So in my playthrough, because the level cap's 40 from memory. 40?
Yeah, well, 40's the gold trophy you have to get to. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's also level cap. You can't go past that.
Right.
So I found once I got to level 30 gear, I stopped giving a fuck. Anything that was, I decided I was drawing a line.
We're in the same gear for the last 10 levels, and I'm like,
I got 35. So sick of going into my inventory and seeing if this piece has 1 extra stat and that because it had so little impact on the playability of the game, and I was so overpowered. And that is one thing I will say, even on hard difficulty, you destroy your enemy way too easily.
Once you learn the combo,
the unforgivable.
Well, no, not even the unforgivables, but once you just learn, like, I actually, because I don't really use the unforgivables in my main playthrough, but I played the Dark Arts Arena, and
where you can only use unforgivables.
Yeah, and I actually found that a lot harder than the regular arenas.
Okay,
because
once you get the blast, Expelliarmus, and they're all red.
No, I'm freezing people and slicing them up.
Slice, that was the third one.
But freeze and slice, demolished. Yeah. Yeah. You cast a little Glacius and then like a Defendo and then they're just done.
No, I always did torture, slice.
The downward one. What am I thinking of? Whatever.
Torture, slice, and bomb.
Bombarda.
The fourth one. Bombarda, yeah. So my last comment on Hogwarts Legacy was kind of a funnier one. It's kind of a game mechanic. Miss, you're a proper posh English student, the same as the Harry Potter games. So the way that you interact with teachers is very respectful and
yes,
posh.
Professor. Sure, Professor.
I really enjoyed your assignment, Professor. It was quite a challenge.
Yeah.
My character, by the end of the game, was a fucking sociopath. Because I would go out and kill an entire nation of fucking goblins. I would annihilate dozens of wizards, of dark wizards, adult wizards. I'm a fifth-year student.
That is a real, yeah.
Using
you kill
all
a lot of
three
people without using unforgivables.
I use all 3 unforgivable curses and
But even without
annihilate
using
dozens
them,
and dozens of adults.
killing so
Let
many
me finish.
people. Yeah.
And then I finish the missions and I pop back to the fucking principal's office and say, "Thank you, Mr. Principal. I really enjoyed this assignment that you set for me." In this crazy polite language. I'm a fucking sociopath. I'm out there annihilating. I'm committing genocide using all of the unforgivable curses and then going back to high school and talking to my principal in the most respectful language you can imagine. It's just so weird. It's so jarring.
No. It has been a really jarring point for me. Is like, even
there's a lot of killing. You're right.
No, it doesn't matter what spells you use. Even if you don't use any of the unforgivables, you kill people as you cast on them. You don't knock them out. It's not like Batman where you're like, I may have just dropped that guy 3 stories, but
they
he's
KO'd
fine.
and then
he's
despawned, but they're fine. Yeah, no, they're dead.
No, but your character model even yells at them, "It's your fault. Your blood is on Ranrock the Goblin's hands." It's like, no, bro, you just chose to kill him.
I literally flew my broom into the middle of 50 guys, killed them all with all the spells that I had been taught, and then went back to high school where they taught me.
Yeah. No,
it's pretty fucking scary when you think about it.
But that's what I'm talking about in terms of the it feels like a mix between it part of it feels like it should have been just a school focused game, and then the outside world should have been like a few years later you're out hunting dark wizards kind of thing. Yeah.
I got no problems with killing video game people, but it did feel like my character was a sociopath, particularly just the juxtaposition of I'm a 5th year student in high school. I'm having these.
But you also don't have a choice to not kill them.
Yes. I'm having these interactions, these strangely platonic and this is not a complaint. I'm not a complaint at all.
Yeah.
But unrealistically platonic relationships with fellow students, given that I'm in 5th year, like I'm almost an adult. Because if you cast your mind back to what you were like interacting with other people when you were 16 and 17, it wasn't 100% platonic 100% of the time. No. The game needed to be, and I think that's appropriate choice for the game. But then I go out into the adult world and I kill everyone. And I come back to these weirdly platonic high school relationships. You're right. It does feel like 2 games. It feels like a child-oriented or a child-targeted game in school, and then the adult 35-year-old video gamer oriented outside.
Well, in the school it feels more like
it's the fun part of Harry Potter. It's the first couple of years of the Harry Potter.
And then you get to the outside world and it's a shoot 'em, like it's a shoot 'em all. Beat 'em up. Kind of thing. Yeah. Which would have been fine if you'd set that as, okay, cool. The first half of the game is you getting through that school, you develop that power, and then it's like the second half is 6-7 years later, you come back to the Hogwarts region. You've developed your ancient magic power, which is fun in itself. And then it's like you're an aura or you're a dark wizard, and that's when you split the game and go like you can go a dark path or you can go a light path.
I felt that I was really genuinely surprised. There's no real
moral choices in the game up until the point where I am. I mean, there might be one for like end game stuff, like.
There's no repercussions for using the unforgivables.
You can because I've looked up
do that
a few
in front of your teachers. They don't care.
Yeah, it's confusing in that way. It is a beautifully crafted game, though, in the sense of like the world building of the castle and all that kind of stuff. That is all enveloping and like.
And the actual storyline, when you think about it, the ancient magic plot line,
it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Is cool and it's consistent with the lore. It fits into the canon. I quite like that. Yeah. There was no real depth to the storyline. There's no real moral principle behind it beyond you can't take pain away from people without them not being people anymore, because we all are shaped by our own existences, and part of existence is pain. But yeah, it was interesting enough to follow the plot, and I felt it fit into the canon. It's just it's a 40-hour game wrapped in a 100-hour trophy.
Yeah, and it's just a bit, because you look at the games that Avalanche Studios have created as well. They've done the entire Just Cause series. They did that Mad Max game as well. So like, and you know, those also didn't have like I guess like that kind of moral, like kind of
grounding.
Not the moral grounding, but that moral split of your choices. Like your choices never. There's no.
It felt like it should have had some sort of Jedi versus Sith choice at some point, and the story should have branched.
Well, yeah, you 100% should have had the choice to go. You know what? I'm going to join Ranrock and his Dark Wizards. Like, fuck it, I agree with them.
There's actually only one, and it's funny because almost all the side quests and quite a few of the main quests, you actually can make decisions. You can choose how you respond to the characters. You can choose to tell them to fuck off. You can choose to demand more money as a reward. There's lots of choices that you make in the game, but I found through experimentation, and then I backed it up with some research afterwards. Literally none of the decisions you make throughout the game have any impact whatsoever on the game except one. And that one decision determines which characters are available at the end of the game. That's it. And it's only one choice.
And it's also one of those things as well, like that if you try and look up now, like any sort of gameplay, like playthrough advice, like trophy roadmap or anything, every single one tells you to be a dick and ask for money because it doesn't affect your gameplay.
Yeah.
Even though I've gotten to the point now where it's like the money doesn't matter and I'm just earning millions of it. I'm like, oh, cool.
And there's nothing to spend the money on. Yeah. It was a poorly implemented fucking trading system, frankly. But look, I think overall the game was good.
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing.
But it was so close to great.
Is anyone else from Avalanche listening right now? Because you need to implement a sell all function because that is fucking annoying.
Yeah.
Having to individually sell every single item in your inventory that you don't need, and you collect so much shit. Yeah.
And there's no reserve button, so you can't mark anything in your randomly ordered inventory in the sell window. You can't say grey out that one, so I can't sell it. It's just
you can't go like that. No, that's like a favorited item or anything like that. Yeah.
Anyway,
or mark something as junk and then go sell all junk, which is an invaluable part of
not a new game mechanic.
No, very old. Yes.
Anyway, that's. I actually think we're going to call this episode Avada Kedavra because I think that makes sense.
No, we need to make fun of the one of my favorite memes of all time, which is the dude who picks up various sizes sticks and goes avidi kavidi, avidi kavidi, avidi kavidi, Avada Kedavra. I'll send it to you. It's very funny. We need to call it a vidi kavidi. A vidi kavidi. A vidi
kavidi. Anything else to say on the topic? I'm done. I'm out.
No, I look forward to finishing it. I hope the guys who are behind it are a bit quicker on the pickups. There are a few little hiccups that everyone's gone through in this game, which is a bit annoying. Like
they fixed my bug pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I'm sure mine will come through. I've got to say, I've had so much joy brought through just flying through the open world. Even just like, I know I can't land in parts of the castle. I'm like, oh, that's the tall point I need to get to. I could probably land up there. And they're like, no, that's against the gameplay. But just soaring around the castle, like it's every part of the movies you wanted to go and go, I just want to fly over there.
I got that joy too for Hogsmeade and Hogwarts.
Yeah.
And the novelty in the open world is there at the start, but it wears off really fucking quickly.
Yeah, but I still, like, there are plenty of points where I'll be like, I should probably just fast travel that. But then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to fly it and I'm going to get as close to the water as possible and I'm going to like skim the top and then I'm going to like try and imagine how I would fly a broom. And it's that kind of like freedom kind of thing. It's like, this is like
but
the
that's you
perfect example of a
exploring
game that would excel in VR.
That too. That had occurred to me. But you're exploring your fantasy of the Harry Potter world more than the game's giving you an avenue to explore that. It's not actually a part of the game.
But that's also what I would look for in any. I wouldn't call this a tie-in game, but let's use that as a really bad broad term. Like.
Yeah,
I would want that in the Star Wars game.
A character from. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah. I still maintain that as soon as you're out of sight of Hogwarts Castle, in the open world. Once you're out of sight of that, or the Forbidden Forests, the rest of the open world is kind of fucking lame.
No, I don't agree with that. I mean, if I had a choice, I would live in the Scottish Highlands. So, like, sure, like that's like the land I'd live in, kind of thing. Yeah, I don't know. It's just I think the world's but that's the other thing. It looks stunning. It looks stunning.
It does.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Yeah, and look, all roads lead to Hogsmeade.
Yeah.
Can you imagine anywhere else just as cozy?
Same fucking lines over and over. Anyway, I think that's it.
That's
it for the episode. Anything else to add?
No. Yes, that's it. Really
Cool.
impressed. I'm going to go back. I'm super doubly impressed with that black IPA. So well done, Sydney Brewery. Even just finishing that off, that was delightful. Well done. You guys have stepped up that game, which I know that looked like a really bad.
I'm going to keep an eye out for it because I do like a good black IPA.
Yeah, I think I could probably. I think I got there's a spare can at the brewery. Or maybe able to squill it away for you. I'm hoping there's some about, but yeah, that was really good. Yeah, well
played.
If I was wearing a hat, I'd take it off today.
Well,
but no, that's it. Thank you very much.
It. Yes, thank you for listening as always.
Hopefully next week next time we'll have Dan back to moderate us as he's good for.
Yes, we've kind of split our audience. Actually, I'm finding that most of the Aussie listeners are audio listeners, and most of our video listeners, and we're getting lots of good numbers on YouTube these days. They're about 60% American. It's really interesting the demographic difference between audio, podcast, and videos. Unfortunately, almost 100% of our YouTube watchers are male. Now, I'm not surprised that
I am,
the content, but I am slightly disappointed that it's 100%. That's a harsh number. But anyway, continue pumping out the content for both.
It's also how people use YouTube,
Yeah.
I watch YouTube very differently to the way Emma watches it. She uses it easily. It's almost like 100 to 1. Like how much I use YouTube to watch shit compared to what she does. Yeah.
Anyway, all right. Thank you very much for tuning in.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.
Yes, hopefully we'll stick to something of a more regular schedule.
We'll be back before Andy gets home.
All right. Bye.
Bye.